Everybody else who works from home, they get to do it in their pajama pants. Everybody else who works from home, they get to do it. They don't get to dress. They don't have to dress up. That's one of the perks of it. So maybe one of the perks for me. But we're just getting started. We got a lot to get into, of course. We got the NFL Combine started. Official workouts yesterday at the drills at the Combine. And yes, there were several Longhorns, 3 Longhorns actually, that participated. We'll get into Byron Murphy's performance. He did showcase at the Combine, Tavondre Sweat and Jalen Ford. Today, you're going to have I believe you're going to have the cornerbacks, actually. Cornerbacks today, DBs, and tight ends. So you'll have JT Sanders today at one point. He will be working out at the Combine. We'll talk about that. We'll also get into some other top stories. I think that that Sark did an interview on the new Keyshawn Johnson podcast. I'll get you the name of it, but we got some audio.
Is the name of that? Is it a Sark play? When you sent me the audio, I believe it is All Facts, No Breaks.
You are right. That is it.
So they had to book Sark like immediately. Because if you're going to call it All Facts, No Breaks, you have to book Sark.
I will say this. Sark has has he abandoned the all gas, no brakes?
No, because
it's not as prominent as it used to be.
Oh, no. Now what is the slogan for this season? Is it obsessed?
Yes, it's obsessed.
Yes.
He's obsessed with winning a national title.
Yeah.
So I think the all gas, no brakes, because that was the mantra and the motto for the first season. And I still think they kept it around for the second season, but it's now, I think, started to die out. You don't hear about it as much.
I don't think they wanted to put it around for the second season because they wanted a little bit better, image
mojo.
of it. Yeah, they were like, all gas, no breaks needs to have a winning record. It can't walk away with a losing record.
Yeah, it was all gas, no brakes, and by the end of the season, the car was all broke down. Engine needed to be overhauled, and it just had all types of issues. Man, it was a clunker. All right, you had to just write that thing off. But anyway, we'll get to some Texas football discussion because Sark did go on that podcast. Thank you, Patrick. Yes, that is the name of it. He did go on that podcast, and he had several different pieces of audio. He had a lot of different great things to say, but there are several pieces of audio that we're going to play for you. And also, he talked about the recruitment of Isaiah Bond, and I thought it was interesting some of the comments he made about the recruitment of Isaiah Bond, the wide receiver from Alabama, who is now on the Texas roster. So we'll get into that coming up a little bit later on. Yes, we'll talk Cowboys. We'll talk about who the Cowboys are meeting with at the NFL Combine, their formal meetings. We'll do that with the Texans as well to get you caught up there. We'll also talk about the biggest freaks at the NFL Combine. We'll go deep into history too, talk about some of the most impressive standout performances at the NFL Combine. So we got a lot to get into. We also got my man Patrick's going to give us the headlines coming up, so we'll give you all the top headlines of the day. We'll also have Patrick. We got some of your old favorites. And from Patrick, obviously, Patrick, you did a great job with Sports Complex, and I think you had a lot of fans. Hopefully, they'll get up early to listen to you here on the Rodcast.
And I get if you're not going to get up early, the podcast is going to be up too. See, if you want to check it on the podcast, and I told everybody that if they're not morning people, they can still harass me online on all our socials, and I'll try and answer those in the afternoon if I'm still awake. I'm still doing the show. We'll still do the show today too. I'm doing double duty today.
Oh, you're really doing double duty?
Yeah, and then on Monday it'll be that today will be the last. Wow. But I wanted to yell about Texas basketball some more, and I could really do that in the afternoons.
Yeah, get it off your chest. That's right. Get it off your chest. I like that. So we'll still have Patrick's big fat poll of the day, which I know was a favorite in the afternoon. So we'll get to that coming up in the Thursday around 6:45. We'll get to Patrick's big fat poll of the day. We also will go behind the burn-ons curtain. We'll do that next segment. Rod's rant of the day. Also, we'll do that coming up a little bit later on in the show. That will be somehow it will be Combine NFL related. We'll talk about the NFL rule changes. Some of them seem like they're, I think, good ideas, and some of them are interesting ideas. We'll talk about that. We'll also go off the record coming up. We got Who Said That also coming up a little bit later on the show. So all of your favorites that you know and love, we're going to continue to do on the Rodcast. All right, before we get started with the hot takes on the top topics of the day, let's give it to my man Patrick for the headlines.
All right, Dear Horn headlines today brought to you by Top Gun Rentals. Suns outlasted the Rockets last night, 110-105. Jalen Green puts up a good performance. He was a game-time decision, still puts up 34 points in the game. Jabari Smith Jr., has 11 points and 16 rebounds, but Booker and Durant too much combined for 59 points in the game. Get the win over the Rockets 110-105. Rockets did not shoot a good enough percentage to take out a hot shooting Suns right now. The Spurs returned home after the rodeo road trip, get a big win. They lost 5 in a row. They beat the Thunder, the number 2 team in the West right now, 132-118. SGA had a big game, but Wembanyama did not want to be denied. He was able to put up 28 points, 13 rebounds, 7 assists, and 5 blocks, including a big one over a step-back jump shot from Chet Holmgren. Probably the first time Chet Holmgren has been blocked like that in probably in his life, I would guess. Wemby, after the game, was asked to talk to the crowd to tell him what he thought in returning to the game. Here's Wemby after the game.
I missed it. I love it. I missed it. Enjoying a game and winning back from the road trip with more than 16,000 people that I love. That's feeling.
Wemby needs to learn to not cuss so much, but gets a big win and is happy to return home to a very raucous crowd, beating the Thunder 132-118. Texas men's basketball takes on Oklahoma State on Saturday. They are looking for back-to-back wins for first time in over a month. Did not have back-to-back losses or back-to-back wins in the month of February. Big win would be over Oklahoma State. Need to win their last 2 home games for sure to try and solidify a run into the Big 12 tournament. Texas women's basketball finishes their season on Saturday versus BYU, 7 p.m. game against BYU, and it is a 10K for 10K. If Texas women's basketball gets 10,000 tickets sold and 10,000 fans up at the arena, Vic Schaefer, along with some other people, will be donating $10,000 to the Neighborhood Longhorn Foundation to support senior night there for the Texas women's basketball team. Has been doing a great job. Had a disappointing loss on Wednesday, but a great team so far this season. And Texas baseball heads off to the Astros Foundation College Classic at Minute Maid Park this weekend. They will take on number 3 LSU tonight, Texas State on Saturday, and on Sunday, number 9 Vanderbilt. A good matchups for the Texas Longhorns. Predicted starters: LeBaron Johnson Jr., Charlie Hurley, and Cody Howard for that. That's your Horn Headlines.
Horn Headlines brought to you by Top Gun Rentals and Lawn Equipment. Come enjoy food, beer, and the best deals of the year on all zero-turn mowers and steel lawn equipment in stock at both locations, March 22nd and 23rd. TopGun.net. We'll shoot you straight.
Thank you, Patrick, for the Horn Headlines there. Let's get into the performance of the players for representing Texas at the NFL Combine. Byron Murphy, first and foremost. We told you, and I think everybody was on board, that he was going to have a great combine, that he was going to impress. He's a guy that played running back in high school, was a linebacker, and ended up growing into a defensive tackle. Weighed in just under 300 pounds, 297 pounds, was 6 foot, so probably a little shorter and probably a little lighter than people thought he would be, but really impressed athletically. 33-inch vertical. That was second among D tackles. That's around 88th percentile of your D tackles. 4.87 40-yard dash for a guy that's damn near 300 pounds, man. That is freakish. I told you guys, to me, those are the biggest freaks at the combine.
Yeah.
They're not the little guys that are running 4.4s and 4.3s. No. It is the damn near 300-pound guys that are running 4.8s, 4.9s, that are running, 4.7s, that are running, hell, even T'Vondre Sweat, which we'll get into, and his 5'2", it just looked good. It looked impressive because that was 366 pounds moving like that.
And that 33-inch vertical jump from Byron Murphy, too, that was a big, when you watch a big guy get up in the air like that, just all his drills, everything he did looked so fluid and stuff that it's amazing to see a guy, who's just under 300, lost a few pounds for the combine, to show that he's got that. But, man, he looked good. And everybody walked away from that going, man, do we put him too low? He was mid-first round, and we may have put him too low.
That's actually when Matt Miller tweeted out. He said, I have him at number 13 on my big board, and I'm worried he's too low.
Yeah.
After that performance, that vertical you talked about, that was second among D tackles. The 40-yard dash was top 3 among D tackles. That was third. His 10-yard split, which is seen to be more important usually than the 40 for a defensive lineman, that was 4th among defensive linemen, and his broad jump was 6th. All around, if you go look at NFL.com's estimated athletic score, They have him 84, which is first among D tackles. His athletic score is 86. I believe that was second. And his production score was 79, which is second. Lance Zierlein compares him to Ed Oliver. He compares him to Ed Oliver, who is the U of H D tackle, who's also drafted really high in the first round and plays for Buffalo right now. Daniel Jeremiah has a number 22 on his big board. I don't know how that was pre-combine. We'll know that could change, obviously, with his performance. Remember, they still got the bench press today, so he still could show out there a little bit more with the bench press, because he claims, and the Texas strength and conditioning coach also backs it up, and that he is the strongest player, or was the strongest player on the Texas football team. That he had the the heaviest squat, that power clean, bench press. So if you're the strongest player on that team, I'm assuming that you can do some freakish things on the bench press. But there is no doubt he showed violent hands in the drills. Violent hands, man. This guy is violent, and he's so agile. His feet are so quick. His short, like I said, he really did, I think, increase his draft stock, which was hard to say because everybody has him in the teens, but it is possible that, man, he becomes potentially first defensive player off the board. That is not out of the question.
No, I mean, when you saw what he did in that, and it was one of those pieces where you saw all the analysts during the broadcast basically going, if you want to see how this drill is run to perfection, watch what Byron Murphy does. And just watch him run through in just with the fluidity of everything he was able to do, being able to move. They talked about that move where he gets down on one knee to get out of double teams and how that's helped him to show his explosiveness. All those pieces that he showed at the combine that he's been working out where, we do see some people not want to get, show as much at the combine. Byron Murphy took that as an opportunity to, put a showcase of himself where all season, he played with Tavondre Sweat, and that's a big personality and a big person physically and literally. It's a person that you put out there that, he may be in that shadow a little bit. He was projected to go before him, but at that same point, he goes, well, I'm going to show you in individual drills that I am the man.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you're right. I mean, it was, you're right. When they watched him, all you saw was how agile he was and how powerful he was.
Yeah.
As a player, quick feet, violent hands is something you saw a lot of with Byron Murphy in those drills. So, and I think the comp, a lot of people make the comp of Aaron Donald. You getting that kind of comp, you're doing something right. If people are giving you that kind of comp. So Byron Murphy definitely increased his draft stock. As a matter of fact, we got some sound because he did great in the interviews too.
Yeah.
A lot of people said he won the media portion of the combine, if that's possible to do. That he was great when he made the rounds. He actually got a chance to talk to my boy Chris Sims and Mike Florio of Pro Football Talk, and I love this conversation that they had with Byron Murphy. I just wanted to play the audio. Here it is.
Now, right. Chris has developed a stat. We have yet to get it recognized by the Elias Sports Bureau as an official stat, but it's called up the play.
The play up stat, right? So, you guys get in the backfield so much, you make these plays, you disrupt the play.
Yeah. How many of those,
you didn't have a tackle for a loss
do you have
in the game?
Man,
we had a lot.
Yeah.
Lots.
When did you know you were Johnny Freak of Nature?
Been knowing that ever since I was a child. I always been.
You've always had the rocked up. 8 years old, you were like, everyone was like, "Damn, he's got muscles."
Yeah, I came out swole, so like I've been like this. I really been like this my whole life. So,
if we were to look at film from one game, what's the game you'd want us to look at?
Alabama. I was just disrupted the whole game from first to fourth.
In the play up.
Yeah.
In the play up.
Yeah, exactly. Right. I just feel like I was just causing havoc, just raising havoc the whole game.
I love the way they put that. Yeah, it should, because you don't always get credit for a splash play or a negative play as a defensive lineman. Sometimes you're just a disruptor. You can just go and blow up the play, which he does a lot of. Someone asked me, do I think that Byron Murphy is as good or better than Casey Hampton? Because this is the best D-tackle duo that Texas has had since Casey Hampton and Sean Rogers. And I played with Casey Hampton.
Yeah.
And I think there are some differences. I do think athletically, Byron Murphy is probably a better athlete overall than Casey Hampton. I think Casey Hampton's a better football player than Byron Murphy, but I'm not saying far and away a better football player. I have no idea what he's going to do at the NFL level. But also a different era of football. I think that Casey Hampton was able to make more splash plays because he played in an era where football was played in a phone booth, especially in the Big 12, right? You had Nebraska. Teams were running triple option still back then. I mean, their teams were playing power football back then. And so everything was closer to the line of scrimmage, closer to the D tackles where they could be disruptive and make a lot of splash plays. That's why he became the first defensive lineman to lead the team in tackles in 2 consecutive seasons. Yeah, he led us in tackles in 99 and 2000 from the D tackle position, guys. Now, that wasn't all, just interior runs. There were some runs where this dude was freakishly chasing down, runners from behind and running sideline to sideline like a dancing bear. So there were those situations too. Or there situations where he just blew it all up. But he made more splash plays. And I think he was able to because of the era that he played. Now football is spread out. Harder for those interior defensive linemen to make as many of those splash plays because they're not there. The football is not played in that phone booth anymore.
It is, but I think there is something to be said of the new era of football. What Byron Murphy does really well of his pass rush, which is why he's ranked ahead of Tavondre Sweat. That when he gets at the quarterback, that when you gave him that Aaron Donald comp, and when you say he could be that kind of guy, when you now put him on a team where if you have a good edge on either side, and now they have to pick who to double when you put Byron Murphy in, those types of plays, I think that he could have that huge impact in the NFL, being used slightly differently than they were using him at Texas, because Texas just didn't have the edges last season to really extenuate where they never had to double on the edges. But if you put him on a team with a Bosa or a Watt or somebody like that, where now they have to double on to the end, and now they're trying to put tight ends, like imagine him with a Myles Garrett. And where you say, well, you're having to double this guy every time, and now we put a second guy on you that if you're not doubling him, he's going to bring in pressure, and you're going to have to make decisions on who you want to get after you. I think Byron Murphy brings that type of explosiveness where he may not be necessarily making every single tackle and explosiveness. I agree with you, Casey Hampton, what he could do, but I think that other part of being able to get after the quarterback in today's NFL is so big in that pass rush that if you could put him on the right team, he could be just extremely dominant.
Yeah, that's what he's a better pass rusher than Casey Hampton. I agree with that. Casey Hampton's better run stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Than he would be, and I think that's the what separates him, right? And like I said, it's a preference thing. It may end up being a preference thing because I don't know what Byron Murphy's going to be. And Casey Hampton was drafted in the first round, but he wasn't drafted that high, 19. I see, not that high. That's high, 19. So Byron Murphy's going to be drafted somewhere in the teens. Looks like right now he's not going to make it to 20 something. So if you're a Texans or a Cowboys fan and you thought, man, Byron Murphy would be great, even though he visited with Texans and the Cowboys, that ain't happening. There's no way that dude ends up there because best pass rushing D tackle in coming out. And he also is among probably top 5 if you look at him graded out against the rush. Tavondre Sweat, who we'll talk about right now, he measured in at 366 pounds. I thought he would be lighter. I thought he would come in a little bit lighter. No shame in 366. He plays at 365 and 6'4", 6'4" and 4'8", so damn near 6'5", 33.2 inch arms, 10.1 inch hands, 81 inch wingspan. The 40-yard dash was probably one of his most impressive moments because he did look athletic running the 5.27, but among D tackles, it's 366. Of course, it was last among the rankings. And he, other agility drills, he looked fluid. And you have to just think about the 366 when you look at the drills and where he's ranked, because the vertical was 26-inch vertical. That was 19th. His broad jump, 8.2. That was 20th. That was last among the D tackles. 10-yard split was 17th. You have to take you have to have perspective on all those numbers and look at the fact that, man, the man's doing all that at 300 pounds, 366 pounds, actually. Here's the list, basically. He was tied for the 11th heaviest player to enter the NFL Combine since 1999. There only been 5 players who, since 99, have been 350 pounds or more. The D tackles weighing 355 plus pounds at the combine since 2000. It's only been 3 of them. And only 2 defensive players in the last 25 years weighed in at 360 pounds or more. So he's in a rare class of girth and size and mass.
Yeah.
And that's part of his game. And he didn't shy away from that. Because I thought he would come in maybe 355, maybe under 360. Not the case. And I thought that would, because he wanted to test better. It's obvious that you brought it up too, Patrick, that Byron Murphy, he probably lost about 5 pounds. Just to get a little bit lighter. That was not the case for T'Vondre Sweat. Came in a little bit heavier than his actual playing weight.
Well, and I think that was strategic, that he wanted to come in and show that people thought that 365 may have been an exaggeration by Texas, that was his playing weight, that he could do all those things at 365. So he comes in trying to aim at that same weight. And I think if he came in at 350, even though that's still huge, but runs and does all the same things at the same speed and the same vertical and all that, 15 pounds lighter, I don't know if it has the same impact as you saw what I did at the field. You can see what I can do. My film will speak for itself that I was 365 in all of those. I am this beast of a man that when when you can stand in a room where everyone is a 300 pounder basically doing a drill, and then you do the drill and it stands out because of how big you are standing next to a room full of 300 pounders. I think that was kind of what he looked at, and it was impactful. I mean, every time he stepped up, the broadcast has to take notice that T'Vondre Sweat and this big man is going up there and doing drills that, most people cannot do at 366, which is what he came in at.
Yeah, no, it's like I said, you haven't seen players that big at the combine period, because usually guys they try to shrink down when they
want to get the best numbers.
Their performance weight is different than their playing weight. So a different strategy by T'Vondre Sweat. I think for the visual it was impressive. I'm not sure if it pushed him into the first round.
I don't know.
I'm not sure if it did, because the knock is that he's going to be a 2-down player, not a 3-down player. Which by the way, I disagree with. I'm just talking about the scouting season, the silly season, is that he could potentially get even bigger. That if he does get a little bit bigger, that would be a concern. So that's a concern. I'm not saying that it's true, but that's the scouting world that's concerned. And if you look at T'Vondre Sweat right now, he's considered a run stuffer, even though he's actually a pretty good pass rusher, one of the top 5 best interior pass rushers coming out, but he's considered a run stuffer, which makes him an early down player. And as we just pointed out with Byron Murphy, what's increasing his draft stock? His ability as a pass rusher, the fact that he can be a pressure defender. And T'Vondre Sweat, I think, can be that, but right now that's the knock on him, is that he may not be able to play 3 downs in the league.
Yeah, and
that's like I said, that's a knock. That's not necessarily true.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that if you want to put him in the first round, you have to put him as a need draft. He's not going to be a best player available draft in the first round. But if you put him as a need, and use the Cowboys example, a team that gave up too many run yards last year, and somebody says we need to shore up our D line, we want to bring in the biggest body to shore up the run stopping game, then he may be a need in the late first round. Someone may trade back into the first round to get a guy that you go, look, he's not going to be every down, but that kind of thing for T'Vondre is more where I think he'd be. I think you're also probably going to see a more early second round, just because the guaranteed money of a guy that size. I think you'd feel a little bit better with a little less guaranteed money on him, just because you sit and say, well, I don't want to necessarily have the long-term and the 5th-year option on this guy if he's not an every down guy in 3 or 4 years. So if we take him on the second, then we get to pick our fate a little bit more. But yeah, I think that it's not a best player available for him, where Byron Murphy jumped into the best player available conversation with that combine. T'Vondre Sweat is much more in the, man, if you need to stop the run, here is your guy who is a run stopper. So a team, I just use the Cowboys because we cover the most, but that's a team that needs somebody. And especially when you had Mozzie Smith, who lost weight last season, if you want to go the opposite route and Mike Zimmer wants a big body, that's a type of person that around 24 to 30 in that range, you could see him just, if they say that's the best D lineman who can stop the run.
Yeah, no doubt the Cowboys need to stop the run. And in fact, we'll talk about that later on. They can't justify taking back-to-back interior D linemen in drafts. And second round, though, that's a sweet spot. If he falls in the second round there for the Cowboys, That would be great. And I think he'll be gone early second round. Like I said, I don't know if he increased his draft stock. I know Mel Kiper loves T'Vondre Sweat. Said he might be his top D tackle on the board. I heard him say that. Also, I heard Jim Nagy didn't hear. I read the thread that he had via Twitter where he said T'Vondre Sweat shouldn't drop out of the first round, but that was prior to the combine. I wonder how he feels now. But like I said, I liked what I saw. He ran a faster 40 times than Tom Brady. All right. Tom Brady ran a 5.28 at the combine. He ran a 5.27. There you go. You can brag. You ran faster than the GOAT at 366 pounds. I will admit, though, the RG3 tweet where he said the equivalent, if you take into account the weight and the size of T'Vondre Sweat, it's the equivalent of if he was 180 pounds of running a 4.2 with that kind of frame with being 6'5" and being 366 pounds. So it was impressive. But like I said, I just wonder if he came in a little lighter, if he would have shown a little bit of better with the drills, with the agility drills. I think he would have shown up a little bit better. But his film will speak for itself. I mean, he won the Outland Trophy because he was the best interior lineman in the country.
And I think there's part of it too. He wanted to walk into every meeting room as the biggest guy they're going to see that weekend.
That's true.
And he knew if I lose some weight, there's going to be some O linemen that are bigger than me, and there may be another D lineman who's bigger than me. No. I'm walking in there, and they're not going to meet anyone with a bigger personality and a bigger body than T'Vondre Sweat this weekend, and it's going to be on their mind come draft day.
Before we take a break here, I love this tweet. It's from a Longhorn fan and someone who covers the Longhorns too. They did, and they're much smarter than me. Essentially, they did force rankings, and obviously mass times speed equals force. So they did their own force rankings with the interior D lineman, which I thought was pretty cool. So we'll get into that because T'Vondre Sweat apparently in his force rankings was ranked pretty high. And I wish this was a real thing, but it's not a real thing. He's kind of made it up, and he's really smart. But when he did his force rankings, he had T'Vondre Sweat as the top player in the interior D lineman when you looked at mass times speed. And I think they measured in newtons or something like that. So he had T'Vondre as the top force player. He had Byron Murphy third. And Braden Fisk, by the way, the Florida State interior D lineman, also made himself some money. We'll go through all the freaks of the freak show, if you will, at the combine. We'll talk about some of the best performances overall, but those are Longhorns. Jalen Ford, he didn't work out. He didn't do all the drills. He worked out some. He did the broad jump. He did the vertical jump, I believe. He did the he didn't do the 40.
He didn't do a lot. He didn't do the drills either. I think he got hurt. The theory was on the jump he may have hurt himself. I didn't see anything where that was substantiated, but I believe that he may have tweaked something or walked away and just said, you know what, I'm not gonna put up a bad 40 if I'm not feeling right. I'll do that at the pro day.
I got a broad jump for him, and I think that's it. Actually,
did we get a vertical? I thought there was a vertical too.
I think 33.5. That's the vertical?
I think that's the vertical. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So he got two jumps. He's got the broad jump and the vertical. And after that, I didn't have anything for him. So the theory is he tweaked something in one of the jumps.
Yeah. He was not going to be a standout, numbers guy. It would have been nice to see him go up there. We'll get his numbers at pro day, but I don't think he was going to be a standout athletic freak. He's a mental freak.
I agree. His broad jump was pretty good though. He was top 5 in the broad jump, so that was good for Jalen Ford. And I'm sure he interviewed well because Jalen Ford's a student of the game. I've talked to him, and he has great football knowledge and great football acumen. Okay, let's take a break. We'll come back. We'll go behind the burnt orange curtain, and we'll hear from Sark. Sark, he was talking to Keyshawn Johnson on that the new podcast that Keyshawn Johnson has. We'll get into that. We'll talk some Texas football on the other side. This is the Rodcast with me, Rod Babers, and my man Patrick Davis right here on the Horn. All right, time to go behind the burnt orange curtain and talk some Texas football. Sark went on I believe you said it was the All Facts, No Breaks podcast from Keyshawn Johnson. And that's a couple of pieces of audio that I want to get into and play. Before we do that, though, I also want to talk about the nuggets, the story, the tidbit that Sark revealed in the All Facts, No Breaks podcast about the recruitment of Isaiah Bond. It was pretty interesting. He talked about that that he basically started recruiting Isaiah Bond right when Nick Saban announced the retirement. He said the timing is pretty incredible that in the midst of all that, Coach Saban decides to retire. That opens up a 30-day window for all those kids at Alabama to potentially enter the portal. And he said that, basically he had already had a bond and a pre-existing relationship from recruiting Isaiah Bond. And obviously Texas lost out on their recruitment. He went to Alabama, but Texas beating Alabama in Tuscaloosa, and essentially Isaiah Bond getting a chance to watch Texas's offense against Alabama and watch A.D. Mitchell and watch Xavier Worthy make all these great plays against Alabama. That influenced him to want to play for Sark, on top of the pre-existing relationship they had in recruiting. But he saw the offense for itself, and that offense actually. And there is a great piece of audio that, I'll ask my man Patrick to pull it up here on the fly, of JT Sanders talking to, I believe, Chris Sims and Mike Florio, if I'm not mistaken. And if he's talking about Sark's offense.
Yeah.
You have this?
Yeah.
Patrick? Okay. Can you thank you, Patrick. You're the man. That's why Patrick is the real MVP. He actually is kind of what I think influenced Isaiah Bond to want to come play, for Sark once he hit the transfer portal. Remember how quickly it happened? I mean, it didn't take any time at all. Isaiah Bond hit the transfer portal, went to Texas, and boom, It was done. It's because I think he saw that offense and thought to himself, man, I want to play in that offense. And Sark's offense is aesthetically pleasing, and it does help recruit high-level skilled talent because it looks like an offense that's fun to play in, especially for the skilled talent. Here's JT Sanders talking about that with Chris Sims and Mike Florio of Pro Football Talk.
Five-star recruit, got offers from Texas, Alabama, Florida, Florida State, Georgia, LSU, Notre Dame, Oklahoma, Ohio State, and Texas A&M. How do you pick Texas when you got all these great schools that want you?
So Texas just really showed me that they wanted me. They was really, after the recruiting process, they really still recruiting me the most, if you get what I'm saying. It was, despite getting offers from Bama and stuff, Herman was still pushing on me hard, and I kind of took that to heart, and that kind of resolved with me. And It just felt like home, better for my family, only 3 hours away from my hometown, did in Texas. So I know my family's going to better make it to all the home games. So it was just really a business decision.
Yeah, business. I want to joke when they say that thing. I'm going to be like, you mean the bag of cash was bigger?
My freshman year, NIL wasn't even a thing. So,
I know. It's crazy. Yeah. So you got to see that whole change.
Yep.
Actually, since we're there, take us through that. What was it like at college? Your first year, you're probably like, damn, I don't have enough money to eat a third meal, right?
It was kind of hard just living
going
off
to
that.
Jester dorm.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Jester.
Yes.
Cypress under the sand jag. It was kind of hard. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
So then what happened when it came NIL? Tell us how life changed a little bit.
It actually changed a lot. I got to be able to help my family out more financially, also myself as well. And it's just I'm just thankful for being able to have the opportunity to help my family out. You know what I'm saying?
I hear you.
You played receiver and defensive end in high school.
Yep.
How did you settle on tight end?
So Herman wanted me to play both sides. He recruited me as an athlete, but when Sark got the job, I kind of knew I was too big to play receiver.
Yeah.
I didn't really want to play defense, especially Sark coming off that national championship at Bama, watching that game. I definitely wanted to be a part of that offense. So I kind of knew I was already going to be in that tight end position.
Right.
There you go. Just watching that offense. I mean, the offense, like I said, even Longhorn fans, I've said this before, Longhorn fans didn't like Greg Davis' offense. They complained about it every year. Won national title, set records. Longhorn fans did not like that offense.
There was a firegregdavis.com, right? They flew a banner over the stadium that said "Fire Greg Davis." That was so the level of not liking it is not they weren't a fan of it. They hired planes. Planes were involved in the hatred of this.
Yeah, I remember people complaining about Makovic's offense and the way Makovic called plays. I mean, you could argue Longhorn fans haven't really liked an offense since Darryl K. Royal was on campus, right? The Longhorn fans like Sark's offense. It's aesthetically pleasing to them. It's a fun offense, right? It's exciting. Sark even talks about how it influences his play calling to keep the crowd into it, to get the crowd hyped, to get the crowd on their feet. We know that honestly sometimes that brings out Coach Steven instead of Sark. He's influenced by that because he wants an offense that actually is an offense that is exciting to watch.
Yeah,
that matters to him because I think it helps him recruit players like a JT Sanders and like an Isaiah Bond. They see themselves playing this offense and it brings them joy, but they also know they're going to get paid because it's a highly productive offense for the skill talent. Okay, let's get to this Sark sound before we run out of time. The first piece of audio is Sark talking about why he chose to stay in Austin when the Alabama job came open. If that even was a reality or a real possibility. Here is Steve Sarkisian.
But different than even being, I think that the speculation in the outside world was probably just that. We were in the process of developing and getting my new contract here done. And I think we're just on the cusp of doing some really special things here at the University of Texas. And so, unfortunate, but no, that was not really a reality.
Well, you know what though, in terms of that, I agree with you, Sark, in terms of the reality side. Now, Alabama's a great football supporting state. There's no question about it. But in terms of, I would never leave Texas in Austin to go coach at Alabama and follow Nick Saban. It just doesn't, it's only a handful of programs, and I tell people, and I started telling people this after the Lane situation at Tennessee. People couldn't understand why Lane would leave Tennessee to go to USC. There's only about 5 college football programs as far as I'm concerned. USC, Texas, Notre Dame, and then maybe Michigan you throw in there, that and there's maybe a Florida State that I would never leave to go coach at another college. Because it'd be a lateral move. Texas is so big in terms of just their athletic program, the academics, the city, just all of those things. There would be probably no amount of money that a program could, unless I'm going to the NFL, can sway me in college football to leave the University of Texas. It just, it made no sense when the rumors were out there. I was like, nah, he would never do that.
Well, for me, growing up in LA, I like a little city in my life. I like a little bit of concrete. I don't mind that the I-35 runs just east of campus right here. I love that there's plenty of places downtown to go eat. I love that we have a city of over 1 million people now in Austin. But I also do love this. I love that in Austin, there's no pro sports. Texas, the University of Texas football, we're really the pro football team in this town. And so we kind of have the best of both worlds. And that's nothing to take away of being in Tuscaloosa, which is a true college town that way. Obviously much smaller in size, but different than even being in LA, where there's so many other things going on in my time there when I was at USC. There's just a really unique niche here at Austin that I think we're really trying to capitalize on and trying to do something, like I said, pretty special.
Yeah, no, he's right about that. I mean, Austin has turned into a pop culture mecca, and it's a true metropolitan city, one of the fastest growing cities in the country, and it has been for the last decade. And in terms of college towns are a true, LA, I know USC is awesome, but man, LA, I don't know if you can even count that as a college city or a college town at all.
I mean, we saw Chip Kelly just get out to be an offensive coordinator.
That's true. But I'm just saying it's a different experience. And I think, some kids want that, right? LA and Hollywood lifestyle. That's awesome. Especially now in the NIL world, I'm sure that is attractive to some student athletes. But Austin, even I would say Washington, right? In Seattle, that's a major city, not necessarily a college town. that's different too, because there's an NFL team there. Hell, there's so much going on in LA, but there's an NFL team there. There's pro sports there, and yes, there's pro sports now in Austin too with the MLS and with Austin FC. So I don't want to disrespect them, but not one of the big three major sports. And it is not a city like LA. Now, there's a lot going on in Austin, of course, because it's a pop culture mecca now. But yeah, I like how you said that. It's a unique niche.
Yeah.
Where you don't have a major pro sport, and it still is a bubbling metropolis that's growing and thriving.
Yeah, DKR is still the biggest attraction to where to watch something in Austin. Like there isn't a football stadium or something else where you go, well, there's this where the NFL team plays, and this is where the college teams with the NFL. No, that like the college, that building, that's where you're going to see it. In the Moody Center, even though the Spurs are coming in, that's the new arena that everybody wants to go to. And they're in the biggest buildings, the best buildings in town.
Yeah, no, you're right about that. It's a true social event.
Yeah.
Every Texas football game is the biggest social event in Austin, which is a major city. Until a South by Southwest comes to town or an ACL, those are the biggest social occasions. You ain't even got like football, but like, no, I'm going to the Texas football game. I'm just gonna go hang out.
Yeah, we'll go down to the tailgate. We'll go down and walk around.
Okay, we got some more time. We'll get to that coming up a little bit later on, because I want to make sure we make time for my man Patrick's big fat poll of the day, which will be coming up next segment. We'll also get into Rod's rant of the day. We'll be doing that in the 7 o'clock hour, the start of the 7 o'clock, and we'll talk about some of the external factors, the macro variables that may be affecting the draft stock of these Longhorns, who are hopefully increasing that stock at the NFL Combine. We'll get into that. Before we do that, let's take a break. We'll come right back with the big fat poll of the day from my man Patrick Davis. This is the Rodcast with myself, Rod Babers, and Patrick Davis right here on the Horn.
Back here on the Rodcast on a Friday morning. It's a 512 Friday where we play local music that you can go check out live around town this weekend. This is Dave Scher playing tonight at the Saxon Pub. If you want to go check out some Dave Scher, very talented young man. He's been on tour with Eric Johnson, having a good old time. But playing tonight at the Saxon Pub if you want to check out 512 music around the 512. Back myself, Rod Babers, getting ready for the Big Fat Poll today. Remember, the text line is open for you guys. We haven't gotten to it yet. We're getting to it right now. 512-447-3776 is the text line number. And let's get to the Big Fat Poll of the day.
Patrick's Big Fat Poll of the day on the Horn.
Big Fat Poll of the day today. If you listen to me in the afternoons, you know all you got to do is text in what your answer is. You get extra credit for if you add a little bit more flair into it and tell me, an event or whatever you got in there. But the question today, since we have the combine happening right now, I know we've got some audio we'll play a little bit later in the show talking about some of these guys. But the question of the day is, who is the greatest freak athlete you've ever seen? So if you want to throw in live and you want to throw in a extra credit of the live when you saw them play or when you got to see them happen, or if you saw them on TV and you could see the greatest freak athlete. Doesn't have to be the best player, because we can throw in Bo Jackson, Deion Sanders, and those guys who were freak athletes, but they were also great players. You can throw in those freak athletes that are just insanely fast guys, maybe couldn't catch a football, or a basketball player that could jump out of the gym, maybe didn't hit a lot of jump shots. But any of those, the greatest freak athlete that you just saw and went, man, that guy is electrifying. I don't care if he's great or not. He's electrifying. Let us know on the text line, 512-447-3776.
I think you're gonna get a lot of guys, or hopefully guys and gals.
Yeah.
I think you'll get both. But I think you're gonna get great players or great athletes who are also great at their sports too.
Yeah.
It's because it's hard to remember.
It is
the freakish athletes who weren't really good at their sports. They don't necessarily make an impression.
Yeah, and
all I can think about are the freak. I mean, Bo Jackson was really good at his sport. He just got hurt early on in his career.
No, and I mean, and also the question, where do you put a Victor Wembanyama? Where you go, technically, for a guy being 7'5", what he can do is freakish.
Yes,
but do you consider him a freak athlete because he's 7'5", or do you say, no, I'm counting pound for pound here? And it's that kind of thing. So he doesn't get bonus credits. Like I say, the craziest thing I ever saw, remember, it shocked me. Saw Margot Didek when I was doing stuff with the Silver Stars or shooting. So I can't remember what they were now. The WNBA team in San Antonio. And she was a 7'2", legit 7'2" woman.
That's wild.
And
that's crazy.
Yeah, it was just to walk in a room where you're everyone's kind of, usually you see a 6'6" woman. You're like, well, that's pretty tall for a woman. And 7'2", you're like, that's tall for anybody in life. And to just be over, and she's a nice lady, and talk to her for a little bit. But yeah, that was
that's amazing.
Yeah, those types of
7'2" woman.
Yeah,
I've never heard of that before. That's wild.
Yeah,
man.
And one of those things where you lie up on those sometimes, where you'll see the guy who's like, I'm 7'3", and you're like, you're 6'11", man. He's trying to get in the NBA.
Well, some guys in the NBA don't they?
No,
they actually
Durant,
lie down about their height.
Durant is one of those guys. Garnett was because they don't want to be centers. Because you're a center. If you're 7'2", you're a center. So they're like, I'm 6'11". If the 6 is there, I can play small forward.
Yeah, it's weird. That's one of those weird things. No, I'm with you. It's the frame counts.
Yeah.
If your freakish frame is a part of your athleticism, it is. That's part of it. It ain't just all your skill and your skill set and your athletic traits. The frame is part of it. Sorry. So I'm with you on that. That's Wemby. He's doing stuff on the court I've never seen before, and I don't think we will ever see it. It's unprecedented because we haven't seen it in that frame before. So yeah, that counts. I mean, I think thinking the most freakish athlete I've seen in person, and I've seen a lot of good ones. I mean, Randy Moss. I've seen Randy Moss in person, and Randy Moss was unbelievable. When he was, focused. And when he was actually, committed to something, and when he thought he was getting the football, I mean, watching him in his prime, that was freakish. Trying to think of the guys at Texas that were most freakish that I played with.
All right, we got a couple on here. We got Ramonte Taylor. He's a guy they put in there. Ndamukong Suh we got on the text line. It said that boy named Sue. It said Bo knows all but diddly. Russell Westbrook. WAPI Parts Guy says Brian Arakpo and Sergio Kindle. Two athletic freaks.
They Arakpo looked the part too, man. Arakpo he looked like a superhero, like a Marvel character.
He
when he took
did.
his shirt off. Yeah. Those are good. Those are really good. I mean, I didn't see Earl in person, man, but Earl Campbell to be that size,
the highlights,
that combination of that speed and power. Yeah, man. That I mean, that's the reason he's a Hall of Famer. And he won the Heisman.
Exactly.
He was the number one overall pick. So that's not surprising. But yeah, man, that's what the combine's about, right? The combine is, I thought I was an athletic freak, and then I went to this freak show, and then I realized if you watch X-Men, there are levels to being an X-Men mutant. There's like beta mutants, and then there's like an alpha mutant, then there's like the omega mutants. They're like 4 different levels. I'm getting way too nerdy for you guys. But the point, I think the highest level is omega mutants. Like those are the mutants with the most powerful skills or whatever. They have the best superpowers. And that's what I learned about. There are omega mutants out there. There are superhumans out there. Because I thought I was going to go to the combine and impress, and I thought I did. I mean, I'll give you my numbers later on. They were decent numbers. They were pretty good, but there are some, like I said, I think they're superhumans. I think there are some humans out there that are just built differently than you and I.
Yeah.
And I saw them up close and personal at the combine, and they were all around me. And that's what the combine's about. It's a freak show. It is it's a summit of superhumans.
It is.
Together.
All right, what about we got a couple of VYs in here? VY, I mean, VY was, especially that stride. When you saw him run, he ran quicker, like he was faster without looking like he was fast than pretty much anybody you ever see.
Took about 7 yards per stride.
Yeah.
It was weird. It was crazy. And still be able to juke you. And it's like, and I never saw VY get hit cleanly. You ever seen anybody hit VY cleanly? He's a big target, but you've never seen anybody get a clean hit on him. He always was able to get skinny and get small, even with that size. Skilled runner, man. Skilled runner. All right. We'll continue the free conversation on the side because I want to talk about the 40-yard dash.
Yes.
We'll get into that on the other side and Rod's rant of the day. We'll also we'll review the combine and look forward to the other combine participants coming up today and the rest of the weekend. We'll come back. We'll get into all of that and more right here on the Rodcast with myself, Rod Babers, and my man, Patrick Davis, right here on the Horn. Hey, what's up, folks? Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers here. Austin is a great city, aside from the traffic, which we all have to deal with. But that's okay because living in Austin has so many perks and so many advantages. It's a great city with great food, great people. We just talked about Texas football and not only the great sports you can enjoy over at the 40 acres. Also, the great iconic landmarks that make the city so unique and make the city so beautiful and aesthetically pleasing. Well, what you may not know is that many of those iconic landmarks that we all love were actually created and built by the hands and the skilled craftsmanship of Ironworkers Local Union 482, like the Pennybacker Bridge and DKR Stadium. The folks over at Ironworkers Local 482 right now are hiring over 3,000 people for a huge project right here in Central Texas, and they're offering competitive wages, competitive benefits, and a pension plan. They're even offering training for unskilled labor through their apprenticeship program. So if you're looking for an exciting employment opportunity or you want a refreshing career change, how about becoming a member of Ironworkers Local 482 right now? Like I said, they're hiring over 3,000 people. It's a great opportunity. They have numerous different positions open for you. And like I said, they are offering training for unskilled labor. So if you're thinking to yourself, man, I'd like a change, but I'm not really sure I have the skills, they will teach you the skills. Become a member of Ironworkers Local 482, and you'll take pride in the type of teamwork and craftsmanship that help shape the future of this great city. So maximize your potential today and accept the challenge of becoming the best version of yourself by applying online at ironworkers482.org. That's ironworkers482.org. Welcome back to the Rodcast. I am your co-host, Rod Babers, lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers, along with my man Patrick Davis. And of course, we are happy to call it a Friday edition of the Rodcast, which makes it a Freak Flag Feel Good, Fake It Till You Make It. Ric Flair, woo! 512 Friday edition of the Rodcast. And 512 Friday means my man Patrick playing jams from local bands and artists that you may have a chance to enjoy coming up this weekend. Who we jamming right now, Patrick?
This is Extreme Heat. They're playing Saturday at the Elephant Room. Extreme Heat, a staple of Austin music for 40 years now, something like that. It's been around for a while. And I know they probably wouldn't like me telling that long, but it's been a while. They've been a staple of Austin music here in town.
Hey man, nothing wrong with that. That's longevity, man. I like that longevity. It means that they offering a product that people want. So we appreciate my man Patrick working hard for us on a 512 Friday, letting you know, showing some love to the local bands and artists, but also giving you the inside info where you can catch some of these fantastically talented individuals. All right, we got a lot to get into. Patrick just introduced his big fat poll of the day, so we're gonna change things up. In my rant, I was going to do kind of a broad topic about the NFL and some of the rule changes and also some of the macro factors that could be affecting the draft stock of the Texas players coming out. We'll table that because now he's got me inspired by this conversation about athletic freaks. We're talking about the NFL Combine. We're in the midst of it. Byron Murphy, speaking of those freaks, he was one of the freaks at that freak show, the NFL Combine, and he showed out. We'll talk about his performance. We'll talk about Devondre Sweat, Jalen Ford. Today, you got the DBs and the tight end. So JT Sanders guy has a chance to make himself a lot of money today. We'll talk about that coming up as well. But the big fat poll of the day, Patrick, it was a great question you threw out there, especially with our minds on, freaks and athleticism and 40-yard dashes and vertical jumps and bench press. Give the people a little review of the big fat poll of the day.
It is who is the greatest freak athlete you have ever seen. You can throw in live, you can throw it on TV if you ever watch, but who is the greatest freak athlete you've ever seen? And we said we could throw in, it could be that their size makes them a freak that they can do it, or just somebody with a insane level of athleticism that can, move their body around at speeds and at levels that normal men could only dream of.
You got a lot of people on the Specs text line that are answering this. How many people have listed Olympians?
Oh, I don't know. If you take out the dream team and basketball Olympians, not a ton, but you're right. Like Jim Thorpe is probably one of the guys you could say was probably one of the guys. But I don't know how many of you ever saw him.
That's true. Yeah, I guess you had to be a historian to think about the late great Jim Thorpe. I know him because I'm a DB, and the award given for the best DB in the country is the Jim Thorpe Award. So I know all about Jim Thorpe. But you're right. It's just interesting that Olympic athletes don't jump to our mind initially when we think about all-time great athletes. We think about the athletes we see more of, which are the athletes that play in the major sports that we watch. Those are considered our great athletes. It's interesting though that nobody really brings up Olympians or anything like that.
We didn't even talk about like a man Mark Henry. And
yes,
Mark Henry is where you look at him and his strength, even though you can work out all day long. There's stuff that I remember watching him on wrestling back in the day where there's a story that Vince McMahon tried to prank him. He had a thing where he was going to roll up a pan, like a cooking pan, and he was going to roll it up, but they were like, well, we'll get him like the most industrial pan we can get. He won't be able to do it. And he just rolled it up real quick. It was like, oh God. that wasn't the prop.
No, I've seen him do some crazy. I believe, I saw Mark Henry pull a semi truck.
Yeah.
At this charity event. And that was wild. It was wild. And it was wild. He also he carries with him, he might have it or like with him all the time. I have no idea. At this event, he had a dumbbell.
Yeah.
You seen this?
Yeah, because he did it when he did his
human can lift it, but him.
Yeah, he had
it's like Thor's hammer.
Exactly. He had it out at the charity event he did last year. He had it out there, and it was one of those things. It's on the second floor, and you're like, I don't even know how you got up in the second floor.
No, he will challenge you. It's like Thor's hammer. He will challenge you, like, no, go try to pick it up. And you can see big swole dudes will go with everything they got, and they can't even move this damn thing. And yet Mark Henry will go up there and just scoop this thing up. Man, Freak. Like I said, some people just built it. There are superhumans. I'm telling y'all, they exist. I went to the NFL Combine. I saw them. I played the NFL. The superhumans exist. I was a good athlete. I was a great athlete at one point. I was a great athlete in high school. I was a good athlete at Texas. When I got to the NFL, freaks. And my athleticism went from great to good to you're an average athlete. You're all right.
We talk about that
roster potentially.
Yeah, we talk about that big fish, small pond, and all of that, and those analogies. That is when you get to the combine, and it is a great humbling experience for some of those guys that are going to be at the combine.
It was humbling for me, and I was behind my combine experience. I guess it's the time to talk about it. I was behind Nnamdi Asomugha. It was alphabetical.
Yeah,
Babers, Asomugha, start with A. So I was behind him, and this dude was drafted in the first round. Just a freak, 6'2", long, rangy. I mean, just if God built a corner type guy. Even to this day, he's a baller. I think he's an actor that married Kerry Washington. So this dude just a baller. He's just winning at life. And I think behind him, it pushed me. But man, he had a great combine too. He had one of those elite combines, and I had to go behind him every time.
Oh,
so that kind of distorted, I think, the picture. I'm 5'8" coming in there behind this dude who's like 6'1", long wingspan and rangy. But he was a freak. He was one of those guys. I mean, I saw him up close and personal.
You should be glad they weren't doing the NFL Network broadcast back then, because you would have been the one they've been showing his replay while you're still doing it. You don't want that, man.
That was Rod B. That would have been Rod B. That's exactly. I'm glad it was not a TV show.
Everybody's in the crowd talking. They're still oohing and on. You're like, are they oohing and on for me? They're like, nah, still for him.
Nah, they're still talking about him, man. That ain't got nothing to do with you. Yeah, that's kind of how I felt, Patrick. I felt like that because there was a lot of hype around him, and obviously he ended up being a first round pick, so deservedly so. All right, enough about my shortcomings at the NFL Combine.
We got some other good ones. We got some Olympians, right? Usain Bolt is an Olympian that we all can say.
Oh,
Michael Phelps is another one that we could say.
Hey, that's legit. Yeah, I mean Michael Phelps. Damn, I mean, didn't he get like the record for gold medals or something?
I know he did at the time, but those things could change. I can't say he did.
Can I say something about Usain Bolt? Can I give you an Usain Bolt factoid? Do you remember when Usain Bolt went to like the NFL's fan experience, and they have this basically a little mini combine where you can run, you can do all the agility drills, and you can run the 40. He ran the 40 in sand, and it was in. I think he ran in sweats, and he had like these little slip-on shoes. They weren't even like real sneakers. They were like little slip-ons. He ran a 4.22. He just,
good Lord.
He just went out there and ran a 4.22. Speaking of freaks, and by the way, if I'm not mistaken, Usain Bolt, speaking of freakish, I think he was born with like scoliosis or something. Like he was born, like something was wrong with his spine when he was born. And it basically changed because a dude that big is not supposed to be able to run that fast. He's huge. He's actually a really tall guy. And apparently like the way that his spine shaped, it actually kind of helped his running style is the way they explained it, because he's so tall, but he's able to stay low to the ground when he starts. It's freaky.
You know what?
I read it.
We got a female here. Simone Biles, another one. That is a
there
good
you go.
call. That's another
no, that's a good one. That's another good one. All right, I like the freak conversation. So matter of fact, we'll get into the best 40s, because the 40 is essentially the show. I got a rant about the 40 anyway that we'll get into. I think the 40 is I think it's an overblown, overvalued data point in evaluation, especially these days. And we'll talk about why that is the case. But there is a Longhorn expected, or at least you can bet on. You can bet on the 40-yard dash now, Patrick.
You can bet on anything, can't you?
You can bet on anything. That's true. We'll give you the betting odds on who's going to run the fastest 40, because there is a Longhorn that is getting a lot of love there. Before we do any of that, though, let's get into our Horn headlines.
Horn headlines here, brought to you by Top Gun Rentals. Suns outlast the Rockets last night, 110-105. Jalen Green puts up 34 points. Jabari Smith Jr. joins the party with 11 points and 16 rebounds, but not enough to combat Booker and Durant, combining for 59 points. keeping the Suns' hot streak alive as they get a win over the Rockets 110-105. And the Spurs return home after their rodeo road trip to a big win over the number 2 team in the West, Oklahoma City Thunder, 132-118. SGA puts up 31 points, but not enough to beat Victor Wembanyama, 28 points, 13 rebounds, 7 assists, and 5 blocks. 2 big threes down the stretch for Victor Wembanyama, and a block of Chet Holmgren on a step back. Again, you talk about freak athletes being able to block another 7-footer on a jump shot to help clinch the game. Big win for the Spurs, 132-118, snaps a 5-game losing streak for the Spurs. Texas men's basketball is taking on Oklahoma State on Saturday, looking for back-to-back wins for the first time in over a month. Have not had back-to-back wins or back-to-back losses in the month of February. See if they can get a big win over Oklahoma State on Saturday. Keep their bracketology hopes alive. Texas women's basketball doing the 10K for 10K last game of the season, senior night at the Moody Center, 7 p.m. on Saturday against BYU. If 10,000 tickets are sold, Vic Schaefer donating $10,000 to the Neighborhood Longhorns Foundation. So go out and support that. $9, $15 tickets. So a good chance to go out and support Texas women's basketball on Saturday nights. And Texas baseball starts off their big series at Minute Maid Park. It's the Astros Foundation College Classic at Minute Maid Park. They will be taking on LSU, who's the number 3 team in the country, Texas State, and number 9 Vanderbilt this weekend. LeBaron Johnson Jr. expected starter tonight for the Longhorns against number 3 LSU. Big matchup tonight for the Longhorns. And that is your Horn Headlines, brought to you by Top Gun Rentals.
Horn Headlines brought to you by Top Gun Rentals and Lawn Equipment. Come enjoy food, beer, and the best deals of the year on all zero-turn mowers and steel lawn equipment in stock at both locations, March 22nd and 23rd. TopGun.net. We'll shoot you straight.
All right, let's talk about the main event at the NFL Combine, which is the 40-yard dash. And it still is the main event. I believe it was Gil Brandt, the great innovator Gil Brandt, and obviously draft evaluator and scout, who came up with the 40-yard dash as being a major tool of evaluation. Then the 20 and the 10, and they obviously time all the splits as well. Byron Murphy, 4.87 at the combine in the 40-yard dash, 3rd best overall. Really good, really impressive. And even T'Vondre Sweat's 5.27 at 3.66 was pretty impressive. Javen Ford didn't run the 40, but there is obviously more hype around the skill guys, the wide receivers and the DBs when it comes to the 40-yard dash, and there are odds on who's going to run the fastest 40. And I was actually a little surprised, and I shouldn't have been surprised, that there is a Longhorn who has the 2nd best odds to run the fastest 40 at the NFL Combine, and it's my man Xavier Worthy. Xavier Worthy, you can bet on it if you want to, at plus 600, has the 2nd best odds to run the fastest 40 at the Combine. Tyler Owens, who used to be, if I'm not mistaken, a Texas Longhorn who transferred to Tech, who, by the way, we'll talk about this. Did you hear what he said about?
I've got the audio.
Oh, you got the audio?
I have the audio.
Oh.
It's not great audio, but I've got it for you. We'll get to it later. I'm sorry.
Okay. All right.
Yeah,
I'm glad you got the audio. I won't even spoil it then. We'll just get to the audio a little bit later.
I heard
He's got some bizarre beliefs.
He's got that Lubbock education.
You know what they say? If you can't get your grades up, get your guns up. Nah, I kid the Texas Tech Red Raiders. I'm just joking. But anyway, getting back to the odds here. Apparently, Tyler Owens, he has the best odds to run the fastest 40 if obviously you're into that kind of thing. He's at plus 400. So this is my thing about Xavier Worthy. He won't do this, but I think he should. I think he should protest and not run the 40. Now, here's my rationale. Xavier Worthy has been clocked by GPS trackers as the fastest player in college football last season. He was clocked at 22.7 miles per hour. That was the fastest time on record in a game for a football player in the college football season for 2023. And maybe it was just ball carrier. Maybe they didn't do guys who didn't have the ball. Maybe it's just ball carrier, but he was still clocked as the fastest ball carrier in college football last season. That is documented. That is on the record. Do you know why Sark and a lot of college coaches refuse to believe in 40-yard dashes at the high school level? Because a lot of them are exaggerated. All right. There's a lot of lore and mythology around the 40-yard dash. And there are a lot of exaggerated 40-yard dash, especially at the high school level. So that's why Sark likes track times. He goes, I want verified track times. I want to see, what this guy ran in track. That's better for him, a better predictor of football speed. But now we actually have a way to document and quantify football speed, right? You have these GPS trackers. You have these body monitors. Whichever way they're doing it, when they track these guys' speed in practice, they track their speed in the games. You know how fast they're actually running with pads on in game situations. Why are we still running 40-yard dashes in shorts when rarely do you run 40 yards straight ahead without having to look around? Usually as a DB, when I'm running 40, I'm either, I'm wrestling with a receiver. I got to make a cut to stay with the receiver. I'm trying to stay with his hip, or I'm looking through the receiver to the quarterback. Very rarely are you just sprinting 40 yards straight ahead. But now, Patrick, that we have actual technology to track football speed in pads with real situations, why are we still running the 40? Trey Lance refused to do it a couple of years ago. He was like, no, man. He just gave them his GPS times for the games. He's like, no, I ran 21 miles per hour in the games. You can go look at it. And Lamar Jackson has refused to run it. Kyler Murray. Now these guys are quarterbacks, so they have more clout and they can do that. But I'm waiting one day for somebody like X-Man to say, no, y'all have I'm the fastest player in college football. You got it right there. I don't need to run a 40. You know what I mean? But it's not going to happen. But he should protest it because it is nonsense. It's nonsense.
Yeah, no, I mean, but
it's a TV show.
It is. And I get for a man like Xavier Worthy, I'd say if you're a first round pick, you can protest. You can say, I'm not doing it. He's not a first round pick yet. So,
he's not. No,
and when you talk about the money's on the table, then I'd say go try and get that money, because if he goes and does something astronomical and is the fastest 40 at the comp, because they have the odds of who's the fastest. You just talked about him. And if you have that, and if he hits the fastest 40, that doesn't hurt him at all. Even if it's not, but I think that's, I get what you're saying, because you're right. It doesn't mean anything. It could hurt him. It could too. Hurt him. But you bet on yourself at that point. And I think if you're Xavier Worthy, and if there's thoughts of, well, maybe he wasn't a team player for his first couple of years, which I don't believe, but that was a conversation that he was a guy that could have been there, that maybe he was too much ego or bravado. Then those places, we know that the GMs are usually smarter than all of the media who's going to necessarily come out and play up these stories. Like Caleb Williams, we're going to hear everything about him and every negative thing that he once told a teacher when he was 5 years old, that she was ugly, and that's why he shouldn't be a number one pick. So we'll get to all of that. But I think for a guy like Xavier Worthy, if you're a first round pick, if they were even saying that you're the number one wide receiver out of your school, but he's not the number one wide receiver getting drafted out of his school. Right now, they're saying it's A.D. Mitchell. So if I'm him, I still have something to prove. And I want to go out there and be like, look, I showed you when I was in Texas, you can take the speed. And at the end of the day, my agent and everybody else is going to tell you that's the actual speed of me in pads and me running. That's with someone trying to bump me and everything else. But also, I can show you I can do this. I'm one of those freak athletes you talk about, and I'm going to make the story, and I'm going to be on the headlines. And as we say, T'Vondre Sweat, even though he didn't set any records, he was still talked about yesterday because he ran, because he did all those things.
Yeah.
And so if you want to be in the conversation, then be in the conversation.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. The NFL wants to see you compete, and they want guys who have that almost arrogance about them, that they'll go out there and compete anytime, any place with anybody. And they also want to showcase their talent. But the NFL you will be penalized heavily if you don't run a 40 that you expect to run.
Yeah.
If he's expected to run, they got him expected to run a 4.2, 4.29, something like that. I didn't make that up. The 33rd which is a website that covers the NFL, 32 teams, they're the 33rd team. They have predictions for the 40, and I sent you these, Patrick. They got Xavier Worthy as predicted to run a 4.2 potentially. So I'm not saying that he's not going to run fast. I think he is going to run fast, but what's your definition of fast and what are your expectations? Your expectations are going to hurt the evaluation.
It is.
The expectations are really high. That's why you guys got Lamar Jackson said, "No, y'all know I'm fast.
Exactly.
I'm fast. Y'all know I'm fast." But your point is, and you're right, they just want to see you compete. They just want to see you go out there and compete and then show up and be clutch in that moment and run your fastest time when all the pressure is on you, when you have to perform in without the controlled environment, and all those different things. Yeah, that's what the NFL, it makes they intentionally makes the combine a pressure cooker. There's a reason you work out on the last day after you've been poked and prodded for 2 days in medical evaluations, after you've been pulled in every direction by the media and interviews for the teams, and then it woke you up early, and then you're going to sleep late, and then you're a little hungry because you don't leave and don't feed you properly, all this kind of stuff. That is a reason you perform at the end. That's the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
And they want to see, after all we put you through, can you still go out there and focus and perform in the fourth quarter after we didn't run you ragged and we didn't frustrated you? And can you go out there in the fourth quarter and go make the clutch plays? That's what they want to see. So you're right. But I'm just arguing the player's perspective where there's more to lose than the game for a lot of these guys. And I think for Xavier Worthy, that may be the case, but I do think he's going to run, and he's going to run fast. But like I said, it's a TV show. And this is y'all's main event, because it doesn't translate to football anymore like it used to. It used to translate. Now it doesn't. Can I give you a factoid about the 25 fastest receivers at the combine?
Yeah.
Because receiver is considered the position where the 40 is valued the most in evaluations. The 25 fastest wide receivers in the combine history, you know how many of them have had 1,000 yards receiving?
How many?
One.
Yeah.
One. That's it.
Which one is it again?
25 fastest. It is Santana Moss.
That's what, the Santana Moss. Yeah, that's right. That's it. It's a crazy. It's not that. I mean, look, Kadarius Toney is the perfect example of being fast and agile and what you can do on the field and what it doesn't matter at a certain point, because Kadarius Toney can get wide open every play and he never catches the ball. And so you can look at that right now and go, that's a guy who athleticism, speed, agility is great, doesn't get the ball. But at the same point, I'll go with Xavier Worthy. The other part I'll throw in for Xavier Worthy in this, his name's W, man. He's the main event of the main event.
That's true. You just go like, you're right. Great point.
Because his name's, I don't know if there's a young or somebody like that who may,
you're right. That's a good point.
Who's going after, but right. Worthy seems like he's going near the end too. That he's going to see everybody else's 40 time, and he may get that shot to go set the standard at the end of that first run.
It's not bad. Yeah, that's true. But that's what, right. If he's motivated,
it's a TV show.
And it is a TV show. No, it's going to be interesting for Xavier Worthy, because I think he's going to run a fast time. And there are some people. I want to say Mel Kiper's latest draft, he had Xavier Worthy in the first round.
Yeah.
And Mel Kiper, I believe he had him, if I'm not mistaken, he had him 32nd going to the Chiefs.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, I believe he had him going to the Chiefs.
I've seen that. So, I saw one, CBS Sports did one earlier this week where I think they had A.D. Mitchell and Xavier Worthy going like 1 and 2 in the second round.
Oh, that would make sense too, because that's what I said. They're right there on the cusp of being late
right,
first, early second. Mel Kiper's latest mock draft, he's got Xavier Worthy 32nd overall to the Kansas City Chiefs. What a dream that would be for Xavier Worthy.
Yeah,
man, that you couldn't ask for a better spot for him. Andy Reid calling your plays, Patrick Mahomes your quarterback, and they gotta avoid that receiver. They got a receiver issue. Man, you might end up becoming at number one there, but
and they just cut Valdez-Scantling too.
Oh, they just did that?
Yeah, they a couple days ago they let him go. So there's even more space for him there for a wide receiver. They're definitely taking at least a wide receiver, if not two, in the draft. The question is if they take one in the first round, and if they go, I think both Texas wide receivers would be a good fit there. And they may not like the locker room, but other than that,
isn't that amazing that Clark Hunt was basically declared by his own players the worst owner in the NFL.
You know, I'll tell you why I didn't care. When I saw on social media, I looked at like the Kansas City websites that were posting that, and the responses were all like #1 in Super Bowls, A+ in Super Bowls, and all that. And you're like, man, it's your own players. Like this is not somebody else saying this about Kansas City.
This is the people that work for you. They are saying, no, man, that guy's terrible.
They don't care.
I think Andy Reid got an A+.
Of course.
They got one of the worst grades. They were bottom 5 overall.
They were 31st
as a franchise.
Yeah, they were 31st out of all 32
really
teams.
Bad. But they got the best coach in the game. They got the best quarterback in the game, best GM in the game, and the best defensive coordinator in football. What matters?
Yeah.
They pay for what matters because they don't pay for players. Guys, they don't pay for players. Think about it. They let Tyreek Hill go because they didn't want to pay him. They haven't paid Chris Jones yet. They're still negotiating that, even though everybody's like, you got to pay Chris Jones, don't you? Think about the Patrick Mahomes deal, guys. That's a 10-year deal. They got an extremely team-friendly deal with that.
They told L'Jarius Sneed he can go look for a trade.
Exactly.
We're not paying you.
Guys, only 5 teams in the NFL since 2019 have spent less cash, all right, than the Kansas City Chiefs. They don't. The owner is cheap, and Brett Veach, I guess he kind of follows the philosophy of the owner. He's cheap. Well, you know what? Not cheap. Frugal. All right, there you go. Frugal, shrewd. That's what you say when cheap people are successful. You call them shrewd and frugal.
You walk in, he's got that Kevin Hart. He's got, the way my checking and savings is set up, we can't afford to give you that right now.
Yeah, remember they just paid Spags and they just paid Andy Reid. Andy Reid was like the 7th highest paid coach in the league.
Yeah.
I don't know what Kansas City's doing with all that money. And by the way, they just petitioned the city. They just threatened the city that they were going to leave if they don't approve a new stadium on taxpayer dollars. Oh, they ain't messing around in Kansas City, man.
No.
That's how the rich stay rich. Wealthy. Stay wealthy, I should say.
Exactly, yes.
Oh, man. Okay, I know we went off the rails there a little bit, but that was fun. Okay, so I got some sound next segment that we're going to play that is related to this discussion that we're having about the 40-yard dash. There's, like I said, there's a lot of mythology about 40-yard dashes. We'll get into 2 of the greatest stories from the horse's mouth, from the players themselves, about the mythology surrounding their 40-yard dash. We'll also talk about the Longhorns at the NFL Combine. We'll get into all of that and more of the big fat poll of the day from my man Patrick about the freakiest athletes that you've ever seen. All that and more coming back here on the Rodcast with myself, lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers, and my man Patrick Davis right here on the Horn. Welcome back to the Rodcast. It is a 512 Friday edition of the Rodcast with myself, Rod Babers, and Patrick Davis. And Patrick Davis is also the one who came up with 512 Friday. He's the Idealionaire. 512 Friday is when he shows some love to the local bands and artists, but also lets you know exactly where you can go catch these very talented folks do their thing. Who are we jamming right now, Patrick?
This is David Ramirez, and he is playing Saturday at Sagebrush.
Nice. I like that. All right. See, you can sound cool in front of all your friends, act like you know about the music scene in Austin. All you got to do is listen to 512 Fridays, and Patrick will let you know what the 411 is.
Go out and support some local music on Texas Independence Day tomorrow and enjoy yourself. And if you want to go out and get some drinks, enjoy some music. There's some options for you.
Yeah. I'm glad you reminded us about Texas
Independence Day. Texas Independence Day is tomorrow. So whatever, I don't know, you had to drink some beer and enjoy being a Texan.
You just get to drink a little bit more. Probably use it as excuse to BBQ if the weather is accommodating. That's about it. But no doubt about it. My man Patrick always hooking you up on a 512 Friday, so we appreciate that. We were talking about the 40-yard dash and how it's overvalued. They should still run the 40s. I mean, I'm just saying more players should refuse to run it if their speed is not in question. And Xavier Worthy's speed is not a question. But they want to see you compete, and it is a TV show, and the 40-yard dash is the main event. But there's all this mythology around 40-yard dashes, and especially the 40-yard dashes of really great players, all-time great players. Like you take Deion Sanders has one of these stories about his 40-yard dash, right? The story that he came out of the 40, came out to the combine limousine, jumped out, ran the 40, jumped back in the limo and left. And ran a 4.1 or something like that. Maybe that was the case, but I went and found and scrounged up some audio of Deion Sanders himself actually discussing his combine experience and discussing his 40 time. And there's audio of Charlie Casserly, who was a scout at the time, who actually still had his records. He never threw away his combine records. And he has the 40 times of Deion Sanders and reveals them at the end of this audio. So here it is. For if you've heard the mythology around Deion Sanders' combine experience, here is the truth from the horse's mouth.
I went to the combine in a business suit, clean as the board of health. He wore the jewelry. He had the clothes. He even had the nice, greasy Jerry curl. And I knew, without a shadow of a doubt, I was the best thing since peanut butter and jelly. Why? Because I was a shut down corner before the name was even given.
He's being ranked as the best pure corner to come out of the draft since Michael Haynes.
Then I gave you a bonus on 4th down that you could even quantify.
Deion Sanders twists his way, finds an alley. It's going to be a touchdown, Florida State. Deion Sanders.
I was a guy that was going to put butts in seats.
The guy had everything. It was just a question of who was going to take him at the top of the draft and when.
I wanted to go to the combine to prove everything you heard was true.
What I was told is he wasn't going to run 40.
There were a number of high-rated players for a long time would not run a 40-yard dash. And in Deion's case, why do I need it? I'm fast.
It was no doubt that I was going to run the 40 and I was going to break the 40 record. That's all I came for.
He probably heard the whispers of people saying, well, is he really that fast? All right, I'm going to show the world that I am the fastest man on earth.
Many different times I've asked Deion point blank on the air and off camera. And for many times he's been very coy.
I hear he hops on a jet. Now I'm assuming private jet, which in that time costs a lot of money, but hey, it's prime time. Pulls up on the scene. He said, hey, limo driver. They roll the little window down. I'll be right back.
I don't even believe I stretch. You know why? Because I never seen a cheetah stretch before he go get his prey.
He steps on the line, puts that hand down.
Boom. And I ran it. And I ran so fast, I felt like I was floating. I felt like I was kind of coming off the ground. And as I hit the finish line, I can remember saying to myself, say it! Because I know everybody was in disbelief.
Everybody stops, takes a breath.
I just wanted the first person to say 4.2 something, because 4.3 wasn't even in the factor.
I heard it was a 4.19, the fastest 40 time ever recorded at the combine.
What did he run? He said plus or minus 4.2, 4.21.
Casserly timed Deion at 4.27 at the combine?
He was wrong.
I heard it was faster than that, but 4.29 is still extremely fast.
Whoever had a 4.29 on their clock, they should look in the mirror and slap what they see, because there's no way I ran a 4.29.
Hey, right here, sports fans. I don't care what anybody says. This is the official times from 1989. There are 4 times from Dion because there were 4 watches. 4.27, 4.27, 4.29, 4.33. Dion ran the 40, waved goodbye, and was out the door.
There you go. And yes, they did confirm that Dion got in his limo. He did not go from the limo to the private jet. He went from the limo to the hotel to do more interviews, then got on the private jet. He did confirm that in the audio. So there you go. Dion ran what did he say, 4.27?
He said 4.27. Yeah, the 4.29, he said that person should look themselves in the mirror and slap what they see. That's a great line.
It's a great.
That's a
Dion's
great
got
line.
so much, but then you can tell how the story grew because Dion kept telling the story, and he probably added a little bit, and he got to the point where he went from a 4.27 to a 4.19. It's like whoa. But there you go. The Dion ran a 4.27 at the combine.
You know when he
didn't stretch.
When he told Jerry Jones that story, Jerry Jones like, I heard he ran a 3.85.
Exactly.
He ran a 3.
This it happens to all of us though, right? As we get older, we're gonna embellish, exaggerate. Them stories gonna become more and more outrageous and wild, and that's exactly what happens to those combine stories. So there's a lot of really cool stories about 40-yard dashes. My favorite is probably the Bo Jackson 40-yard dash story. And Bo Jackson reportedly at the combine back in the day, 1986, they claim he ran a 4.19 and a 4.12 hand time. Like these are before the combine became official, and as modernized as it is today. But here's Bo Jackson. Now this wasn't at the combine. This was, I believe, leading up to his pro experience. This is basically before his last season at Auburn, before he turned pro. Here is Bo Jackson talking about his fastest, well, I don't know if it's his fastest, but his 40-yard dash where the scouts and what the scouts clocked him at.
Is it true you ran a 4.12?
Do you believe it?
4.13. 4.13. Oh, you're a little bit slower than I thought. Let me make this mark here.
Just a microsecond slower than that. But actually, I was on my way to track practice. And they had to come by there. There had to be 20 to 30 guys there. And we were inside running. And the coach was, hey, Bo, we got a bunch of scouts here from all over the country. And we got a little combine here. They timing guys for the 40. Why don't you come in and run a 40 for them? Do I have to? Because I know you want me to come and run now, and I got to go run at track practice.
Right.
Because I practice with Harvey Glantz, who's a 76 Olympic gold medal winner from Auburn. So I'm thinking about, I got to chase this little cat all day and come in and run a 40. So I did. And I ran my first 40. And about 5 yards from the finish line, I kind of like let up and just cruised through. And I ran a 4.3. And I got down, and so my coach, as I'm walking back, my coach is walking toward me. He said, hey, why don't you run the damn 40? Give these people what they want so they can leave you alone. Run the 40. So I said, all right. So I said, you got to open the back door, because they only had about 10 to 15 yards of space for you to stop once you cross the line. I said, you got to open the back door because I can't stop in this distance if you want me to do. So they raised the back door up open. And I told the guy that I was with, I said, get my bag and just go on and start walking, because I'm not going to stop and I'm not coming back. I'm just going
to keep on going.
Keep dropping the mic.
Yeah.
So I got down and everything was done electronically. And I didn't find out till after practice, after track practice, what I'd run. And some of the guys that had stopwatches, they had me at a 3.9 or 4 flat with stopwatches, but the electronic timer had got me at a 4.13.
He said 3.9 unofficially. So what's more freakish, Patrick? Bo Jackson saying he ran a 4.13 official time, 3.9 unofficial. Deion Sanders running a 4.27 without stretching coming out of the limo. Or how about this little factoid? I got one for you. At 50 years old, Darryl Green ran a 4.4 on the record. They got video of it. You can go Google it right now. You go YouTube it. He had 50. I'm 43 right now. I probably, you know what, Tavondre Sweat might get me. It might be tight.
Oh.
Like, honestly, I hope I can beat Tavondre at this point. But 50 years old, Darrell Green ran a 4.4. What's more freakish?
I mean, honestly, there's less 50-year-olds that can run under 5 than there are. And I know there's just less humans, but football athletes, like guys who can take a hit and run that way, there's at least people that can run that fast. Like we said, Usain Bolt can run that fast. There's guys who can sprint that fast.
Yes.
But at 50 years old, I don't know how many people could even run that. Like,
it's
especially,
amazing.
and then after playing football.
Exactly.
Like, and not just 50,
time.
like you kept up with your body and you're a runner and you've always done it. No, you're like, I took abuse and I can still do this. That's crazy.
He ran a low 4.4. It was a 4.43.
Like
Darrell at 50, you can go look at it. He got video evidence of it. That is what's freaky. Like I said, Usain Bolt, I did see him at the NFL Fan Experience just run a 4.22 casually with sweats on, without stretching. That's pretty freaky. Some people are just built different. I mean, Tyreek Hill ran a 4.242. So I like speed that actually translates to success. I mean, we can talk about John Ross and Dante Stallworth running 4.22, but I mean, they didn't become great players with that kind of speed. I like talking about the guys like a Jamal Charles who have elite speed and it translates to on-field productivity. And hell, man, Bo Jackson, Chris Johnson, I guess, is in that category too. He ran a 4.24 at the combine. I still think that's like top 5 times at the combine. That to me, those are the freaky guys because I'm as a DB. It scares the hell out of me to be on a field with a guy with speed like that actually translates to the field.
Yeah. Like
that's scary.
When you think about if you just miss them, trying to bump them at the line and they get around you and you're like, well, that's a touchdown. I better hope my safety is paying attention.
Exactly. and by the way, I think Xavier Worthy does have that speed that translates. It's scary on the field.
Oh no, we've seen him get downfield. It's just, they shadowed him over a lot of times. But when you get to the NFL, when there's all, as you talked about when you get to when you get to the NFL and there's all those guys. And so now the safeties have a harder time. And then you got a running back come up the middle. It becomes harder to just double team a guy like X-Man the entire game. And when you put him in the NFL and you don't give him a double and you're putting a second, DB, you're not even putting your top guy on him. He could put up some scary numbers, especially if he gets on the right team.
Yeah, that's why I said if you're fast, you're just fast. I mean, you probably, even as an older man, you're probably still fast if you were that fast in your prime. So there you go, a couple of notorious, infamous 40-yard dash stories this weekend. Xavier Worthy has a chance, at least some people believe, to run the fastest 40-yard dash at the combine. If he does, he's gonna make himself a whole lot of money in the NFL draft. All right, when we come back, we'll get into what the facts. We got some facts and some stats that we'll share with you guys on the other side. We'll get back to combine discussion, talk about Byron Murphy, Tavondre Sweat, Jalen Ford, and what those guys achieved at the combine yesterday. And we'll also get into, I believe, JT Sanders, tight ends and DBs. We'll be doing on-field drills today. We'll get into JT Sanders and what he needs to do at the combine to increase his draft stock. All of that and more when we return. This is the Rodcast, featuring me, Rod Babers, and my man Patrick Davis, right here on the Horn. Hey, what's up, folks? Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers here. Yes, traffic can be a bit of a pain. It can be very inconvenient, but you can actually make your traffic experience a little bit better. If you were in a car that you enjoyed, and if you were in a car that you loved, a car that brought you joy, you probably wouldn't, your traffic experience wouldn't be so bad. Well, my friends at Apple Leasing, they can help you with that. Apple Leasing has the ability to put you in any make or model vehicle that you want. The professionals at Apple Leasing can help you get the price you want, the payment you want on the car that you want. Now, a lot of you out there, you want a new car. You want to enjoy that new car smell. You need a new car for, a lifestyle change. Maybe your car's not big enough. Maybe your car's a little bit run down. Whatever the reason, Apple Leasing can help you out. You're probably just a little bit reluctant to do the research, right? You got to do the research on what type of car you want. You got to do the price shopping. Go to different dealerships. Vet the dealers. Vet the dealerships. You got to go down that rabbit hole. And honestly, that can be very time consuming. It can be stressful. That can be a bit of a headache. And you don't want to have to deal with that. So that's why Apple Leasing has been doing business here in Austin for almost 40 years. They'll take that off your plate. They'll do the heavy lifting. They'll do the research for you. They'll vet the dealers. They'll vet the dealerships. All you have to do is let them know exactly what your specifications are, what the actual requirements are. You let them know what kind of car you want, whether it's a sedan or whether it's a truck or whether it's an SUV. You let them know what color you want. If that's something that means like, hey, I got to have this color, they can handle that. You let them know exactly what your budget is, what's your price point, what kind of lease are you in. They can get you from a bad lease into a much better lease. They will handle all of the heavy lifting. They'll handle all the headaches, and all you have to enjoy is that new car smell. All it takes is one phone call or one click on Apple Leasing's website, and you're going to quote on any make or model vehicle that you want. They'll even give you an estimate on the value of your trade-in right over the phone. Apple Leasing has what they call a simple interest easy lease, which makes things, well, simple and easy. They're going to take a lot off your plate. They're going to give you a lot of flexibility, which is going to give you more possibilities and options to help you find the vehicle that fits you best, but more importantly, the vehicle that fits your budget best. Inflation is out of control, right? Everything seems overpriced these days. That's why leasing makes more sense than ever. You're only paying for the part of the car you're actually using. That's the value that Apple Leasing can find for you. Listen, they know that your time is important. Time is money. And they're going to save you both. They're going to save you time, save you money, and find you tremendous value. They get all the same discounts, all the same incentives that the dealers do, except they like to pass those savings on to you, the customer, so that you ultimately win. You get the best bang for your buck. So give them a call, 512-346-9977. 512-346-9977. Just start the conversation or go online and just do some research at appleleasing.com. That's appleleasing.com. All right, time for What the Facts. We throw in all types of facts and stats from all around the sports world. Sometimes they're not even from the sports world. Sometimes they're just random factoids that we think you need to know. This one actually is from the sports world. How about this? The NBA. I got a lot of factoids from the NBA. I feel like we can do one of these about Wemby every day. I mean, Wemby, there's so many freaky Wemby stats. As a matter of fact, I'll throw one out there because they stockpile every damn day. It seems like there's a new one. But how about this one? Only 2 players have made more than 100 3-pointers in 2024. Steph and Dante DiVincenzo. No other player in the NBA has more than 89 made 3-pointers. That was as of yesterday. But how about that?
That's surprising. That's a surprising number. Yeah.
Yeah, because the teams are hitting more, so maybe it's just more guys. They're just dividing it up.
Yeah, no, I would have. Yeah, you wouldn't have thought that they would have both. Yeah, that you would have been able to come out there. And Steph's not surprising that he has the green light. Even Chinzo's a little bit more surprising that he gets that green light. And you maybe think that like a guy like Joe Ingles or somebody like that, like a guy who's just a 3-point shooter and that's kind of all they do, might be in there.
Yeah.
But I guess you don't get the green light and you got to spread the ball around. Now that it's harder and harder to get a basketball team where you can have guys that just aren't scorers anymore because everybody helps off of them. So you need to have guys that can score everywhere. So, they teach them how to shoot threes now. It's what they're trying to do with Dylan Mitchell.
Yes, that's a great point. I like that. That's a nice little connection. How about this one? You're an NBA guy. NBA over-unders this season after the All-Star break, 73% to the under. How about that?
Yeah.
The average... It's the unders hitting at a 73% rate since the All-Star break. That is freaky. What's going on? A team's playing defense now to gear up for the playoffs?
And now, look, there is this overwhelming thought that teams don't play any defense. And it's always funny because you're like, no, watch the teams that don't play defense. Like the Suns don't play a lot of defense. That's why they're not in the top 4 teams in the West right now. They have all the offensive firepower in the world, but it doesn't mean like you still have to be able to stop teams. Now, there's guys on every team. Like, so we used to say there used to be guys who couldn't play offense. Now everyone has to be able to play offense, but you can have guys that don't play defense. But you have to have guys that play defense on your teams. You have to have someone protecting the paint. It's why the Mavs just traded for 2 guys that have length and ability to play a little bit inside and drafted Derek Lively because they were getting killed in the paint every time. Spurs getting killed in the paint are going to try and correct that in the offseason. Like you have to do it. The Rockets, another team, they're getting killed in the paint. You have to correct that. But I think in reality, that number I think will come back up a little bit as time goes on. I think a lot of those teams, you take that break, the people rested over All-Star weekend, basically had a week off, and you get out of rhythm. You get out of it. I'm sure a lot of those guys didn't touch a basketball for a week. Not the All-Stars, but the rest of the guys on the team.
That's a good point. Yeah.
And we saw the Spurs come back out, and they were playing awful on the rest of that rodeo road trip. I think that there's just numbers that they were basing it off of what happened the rest of the season. Some of those guys came out All-Star weekend and were enjoying themselves and came back a little bit rustier because by the end of the, going into All-Star break, you're full rhythm. You're playing every day, every other day. You're practicing on the days off. There's no break in it. You get your shot going. Then you take a week off of it. Maybe that shot's just a little bit off. Those percentages, I've seen a lot of percentages drop a lot more in the last, like we talked about that Rockets game last night. They shot 33% in that game. They had every chance to win that. They shot 33%. You can't do that.
Yeah. Spurs got the win though.
Yes.
Looked like they were in trouble at first. They had a double-digit lead, and they let them
that
back
end of the third quarter was brutal.
Is that what happened?
In the end of the third quarter, it was like a 13-4 run for Oklahoma City at the end of the third quarter to push back into it. Basically, the Spurs get a decent call, and you get one of those ball don't lie moments where the ball was out on the Spurs, but they gave it back to the Spurs anyway. They throw the inbound pass, it's picked off, run back down, and it's an and one, and it just piled on from there. But they were able to fight back in that game, and then down the stretch. And man, it was you would not have known that was a bottom 3 team in the NBA. So fans were going nuts. The Spurs are freaking out because when you have Wemby, he wants to win. And he's a very competitive person. So you can tell he gets down and the whole team is just kind of around him, like feeding off this energy of a guy who's like, please let me get a win. I went to All-Star weekend and no one cared. And I didn't get that at all. And
Wemby he is a show. I mean, I'll give you a little factoid about Wemby before we get out of here. How about this? Wemby has surpassed 1 billion video views across NBA social media platforms. Because he does all these freaky highlight reel things that would just be, routine for any other NBA player. But when you see somebody do it with that frame, and he's doing freaky stuff that you just don't see because he's got that kind of frame. When you see a Wemby highlight, you look at it a couple of times.
Yeah. Like I told you, that block on Chet Holmgren. And the reason I bring it up is because it's not a block of, he blocked a 7-footer and like he got a lot of air and tipped the ball.
Yeah.
He fully palmed the basketball in Chet Holmgren's hand. Chet Holmgren hit the ground because he was like, what just happened? And they come back the other way and he hits a 3 on the other side. But it's like the block, he basically hits a 3, comes back down, blocks Chet Holmgren, and they come back down and score again. You're like, what a sequence.
Yeah, no, I've seen a couple of those. Remember he had the Space Jam moment? Do you remember that? Where he does like the Space Jam move?
He's had a few this season where he takes off, and from where he takes off, you're like, oh, well, that's that's not even a layup. That's a push shot. And then he's dunking it and getting in. It's crazy.
Totally agree. All right, there you go. I got other Wemby stats I can give to you. I'll just save those for later on. He's got a bunch of. All right, we'll come back. We'll get into all the big stories. We'll review Byron Murphy and T'Vondre Sweat, Jalen Ford's combine performance, and look forward to JT Sanders today. All that and more. This is the Rodcast with my man Patrick Davis. I'm lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers right here on the Horn. Hey, what's up, folks? Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers here, and I'm happy to talk about Dr. U, Dr. Greg Eckert, because I owe him a debt of gratitude, folks. I went to Dr. U, probably should have been visiting Dr. U on a more regular basis, right? So I was irresponsible about my dental checkup, so don't do that. Learn from me. Make sure you're going to Dr. Greg Eckert, and make sure you're going to the dentist regularly. But I went, and I just went in for a cleaning, went in for a checkup. They did x-rays. Dr. U found out my wisdom teeth were growing in sideways. It was a pretty, it was pretty drastic. And he decided that, hey, man, we got to get this taken care of just to make sure that things don't get worse. And so he informed me about everything, educated me about the entire procedure and what was going to go down. Guys, I was back to work, as you know. I was back to work in 3 days after having all four of my wisdom teeth removed. And also, I got the cleaning and everything done. I have to go back to Dr. U actually next month to have I have a couple of other things done, just a cleaning. Got to make sure that everything's on track. But I learned my lesson. So I'll be visiting Dr. U and Dr. Eckert a lot more. All right. And you should be doing that as well. It doesn't matter what you need, right? Maybe it is something dire like I had with your wisdom teeth having to be removed. They can take care of that. They can take care of root canal therapy, really serious issues, full mouth reconstruction. That's also something Dr. U can help you with. But any general dentistry, I mean, you're talking about just teeth whitening, dentures, porcelain crowns, veneers, dental implants, whatever it takes to make sure you're getting the best quality dental care available. That's what Dr. Greg Eckert and his all-star team are all about. And I know this personally because they did it for me, and they can do it for you. And another thing that Dr. U is always, obsessed with, it would seem, is making sure that he's always on the cutting edge of the technological advances in general dentistry. And that's why right now he can give you a brand new smile in just 1 day. I know it sounds too good to be true. It's not. It's just Dr. U. No time spent without teeth. Temporary fixtures until you can complete your permanent smile. You'll smile again with confidence and eat freely without pain or discomfort. So if you've been told that your teeth need to be replaced, call Dr. Eckert today to learn about this revolutionary alternative to dentures. A brand new smile in just 1 day, folks. Complimentary consultation, which means you got nothing to lose but everything to gain, because a confident smile can truly change your life. Dr. U knows this very well, and he knows that the quality of your smile can affect the quality of your life, and he wants you to have a really great quality of life. So give him a call today, 512-345-3166. That's 512-345-3166, or visit dreckert.com, DRUECKERT.com. Welcome back to the Rodcast. It is a freak flag, feel good, fake it till you make it. Ric Flair, woo! 512 Friday edition of the Rodcast with myself, lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers, and my man Patrick Davis. Patrick Davis is the idealionaire. He's the one that came up with 512 Fridays when we give a shout out to some very talented local bands and artists who are performing right here in the ATX. And my man Patrick lets you know exactly how you can go enjoy their talents. Who we jamming right now, Patrick?
This is the Peterson Brothers, and they're going to be playing Saturday down at the Continental Club.
Oh, I like that. Nice. I know what the Continental Club is. Mm-hmm.
Still around. Still around.
Yeah, it's been around a long time. Long time. That's a beautiful thing when you got because in Austin, you know, a lot of those iconic establishments have gone by the wayside since COVID and a lot of other things. So glad to have the Continental still around. And my man Patrick always makes you look good, make you look cool in front of all your friends. You can act like you know where all the best talent is playing in Austin, and you can take your friends out on the town. And like I said, they'll think you're really cool. You ain't even got to let them know where you found out all these bands are playing or found out all this information about them. My man Patrick does all the hard work for you, and he's doing the hard work for me too, because my man Patrick doing a great job. He's basically got like 5 jobs around here, but appreciate my man Patrick and all the hard work he's doing. Appreciate you too. Specs text line is the best way for you to keep up with the show. 512-447-3776. That's number to the text line. You can text us there to keep up with the show. You also can watch the show. I believe, Patrick, do we have a link to watch the show on the website or watching on YouTube?
It should be. I think it's on the website too. I haven't checked it in a minute, but it should be on Twitch and it should be on YouTube. I believe you just search the Horn Austin on either one of those. You should be able to find us.
There you go. So yeah, you can consume the show in a lot of different ways. So go check out the link or go check it out on the YouTube page for the Horn. All right, so we got a lot to get into. We'll review Byron Murphy's combine performance of Andre Sweat and Jalen Ford. We'll also look forward to JT Sanders because JT Sanders is going to do on the field drills today because DBs and tight ends are performing. We'll get to Horn headlines here in a second. In Rod's rant of the day, I'll get to those macro external factors that are going to affect the draft stock of the Longhorns coming out. We'll get to that when we get into Rod's rant of the day. But before we do any of that, let's check the headlines, the Horn headlines with my man Patrick.
All right, your Horn headlines brought to you by Top Gun Rentals. Suns outlast the Rockets last night, 110-105. Jalen Green puts up 34 points. Jabari Smith Jr. adds in with 11 points and 16 rebounds. A young core for the Rockets doing some good work. But Devin Booker, Kevin Durant doing too much, combining for 59 points against the Rockets. Rockets only shoot about 30% in the game. Can't get it done. Lose 110-105 to the Rockets. The Spurs, in their return home after the rodeo road trip, get a big win over the number 2 seeded in the West, Oklahoma City Thunder, 132-118. SGA, 31 points in the game, but not enough to compete with Victor Wembanyama, 28 points, 13 rebounds, 7 assists, and 5 blocks. Wemby was quite thrilled after the game to get that numbers and get the big win. Had some big threes and a big block down the stretch for the Spurs to get the win there. In men's basketball, Texas taking on Oklahoma State on Saturday, looking for back-to-back wins for the first time in over a month. Have not had back-to-back losses or back-to-back wins for Texas in the month of February. Hoping to turn that around with a win over Oklahoma State to build off that road win over Texas Tech last week. Hopefully they'll get a win over Oklahoma State, a matchup they should win over an Oklahoma State team. Texas women's basketball will be taking on BYU in their final game of the regular season on Saturday at 7 p.m., and they're doing the 10K for 10K. If 10,000 people buy tickets and come out to the game for Texas women's basketball, Vic Schaefer will be donating $10,000 to the Neighborhood Longhorn Foundation and support the women's basketball team. Tickets are only $9 and $15, so you can go check that out there. And Texas baseball is heading down to Houston for the Astros Foundation College Classic at Minute Maid Park, taking on some big teams. Number 3 LSU tonight, LeBaron Johnson Jr., your projected starter for tonight. They'll be taking on Texas State with Charlie Hurley taking the mound on Saturday. And on Sunday, number 9 in the country, Vanderbilt, will be going up against Cody Howard on the mound for the Longhorns. And that is your Horn headlines.
All right, let's talk about Byron Murphy first, because the anticipation surrounding Byron Murphy was widespread. Everybody had been talking about Bruce Feldman was one of the draft analysts talking about Byron Murphy and how he was expected to have a freakish workout. He did not disappoint. He had measured in at 297, so a little bit under 300 pounds, 6 foot. As my man Patrick mentioned, I believe that probably was intentional. He probably wanted to come in and test really well. So he probably plays a little bit heavier than that, maybe probably 5 pounds heavier than that. But at 33-inch vertical, that's second among the D tackles, puts him in the 88th percentile. He had a 4.87 40. Which damn near 300 pounds, 3 pounds shy of it. Really impressive. That was third among D tackles. His 10-yard split was fourth among the D tackles. His broad jump was sixth among D tackles. You go look at it. There are several scouts, draft analysts, Matt Miller being one of them at NFL Draft Scout, who remarked that Byron Murphy's workout was so impressive that he ranked Byron Murphy number 13 on his big board, just overall rankings of prospects coming out. And he said, quote, "I'm worried that's too low." Lance Zierlein, after watching him work out, compared him to Ed Oliver, which is a really good comparison. That's a guy, D tackle, that was drafted really high, undersized D tackle drafted high. The NFL.com has what they call their athletic scores, where they have an overall score for the players. So the overall score for Byron Murphy was 84. He's first among D tackles. His athletic score was 86. That was second among D tackles. His production score was 79 after his combine workout, which was second among D tackles. So, I mean, Mel Kiper has projected him as his number 13. His latest mock draft, he's going 13 overall in Mel Kiper's latest mock draft. And Daniel Jeremiah has him number 22 on his big board. That's before the workout. The assumption is now after this workout, Patrick, that his stock is going to increase even more. And, he being the best pass rushing D tackle in this draft, and now confirming he's got quick feet.
Yeah.
He's got violent, powerful hands. And he's got really just the stature and the frame to anchor against double teams and to beat. He's got the agility to beat one-on-one blocks. And I think that's why his draft stock is increasing. There's no question about it after that workout.
Yeah, and I mean, he's one of those people that if you look at just the physicality and the physical traits that he has, he's jumping up on your boards because you think, man, I would love to have this guy on my team and I could build on him. And with what we teach, we can make him even better. And then the flip of that, you see what he's done on film and you see, his ability and the technique he already has. And you think this guy could be playing for us next season and playing big minutes for us next season, which, especially if you're a top 10 pick, you're normally going to be playing next season because, they don't necessarily have the rotation that they need. But I think that he moves up those boards when simply you look at it, and there's just not the negatives on Byron Murphy in pretty much any way. He's also talked about as one of the best in meetings. They said he had the best meetings of the defensive linemen. So if you say this guy's got the mental part down, he's got the physical part, that he's the best athlete at the defensive tackle position, and he's got the framework of Bo Davis teaching him and all those pieces, you put it all together. It's hard to say that if you need that position, if you need somebody to come in, that you would look past him for an edge even, or, maybe you go out there and you go, well, we need a DB, and you go, well, there's more DBs. There's one of one Byron Murphy.
Yeah. Tony Pauline, who does draft analyst work for Sportscada, he said that Byron Murphy was the most physically impressive defender this morning. During the media session, I'm told he already has 25 official meetings in Indy. And he's saying he's hearing the Vikings are going to take him at 11. If he goes that high, I mean, this is before the workout, mind you. This is during the media sessions and everything. After that workout, if he had him going as high as 11 and people are saying his draft stock increasing, he could be the first defender off the board. His RAS score, which is a relative athletic score, has him at 9.08 out of 10. Which basically ranks him 150th out of 1,620 D tackles that they've graded from 1987 to 2024. It's pretty damn good. He's elite in his vertical, broad jump, 40 and 10 and 20-yard splits were graded out as elite. He had below average height and weight. So, I mean, he's 6 foot 297.
Yeah.
So there you go. But right now, Byron Murphy, he's trending toward potentially being maybe the first defender off the board in the draft. Actually, my man Sims, along with Pro Football Talk, had a sit down with Byron Murphy. Now, this really doesn't have any great nuggets in it, but I think it's really cool audio because I think it kind of describes Byron Murphy's playing style. And I think my man Sims might have hit the nail on the head. Here it is.
Now, Chris has developed a stat. We have yet to get it recognized by the Elias Sports Bureau as an official stat, but it's called up the play.
The play up stat, right?
So,
you guys get in the backfield so much, you make these plays,
everything.
You disrupt the play.
Yeah.
How many of those, he didn't have a tackle for a loss
do you
in
have
the
a game?
Man, we had a lot.
Yeah.
Lots.
When did you know you were Johnny Freak of Nature?
Been knowing that ever since I was a child. I always been.
You've always had the rocked up. 8 years old, you were like, everyone was like, damn, he's got muscles.
I came out swole. So like, I've been like this. I really been like this my whole life.
If we were to look at film from one game, what's the game you'd want us to look at?
Alabama. I was just disrupted the whole game from first to fourth.
In the play up.
Yeah.
In the play up.
Yeah, exactly. Right. I just feel like I was just causing havoc, just raising havoc the whole game. Make
a t-shirt. F the play up. F the play up, man. I came out swole. I like that too. I came out swole. Just came out swole.
That's like the F around, find out, and then you got
That's true. I like that. Yeah.
All those
F the
together.
play up, man. It's like tat a club up, F the play up. F the play up. They should just make a song about it. All right. T'Vondre Sweat F'd up a lot of plays too. And I expected T'Vondre Sweat to come in a little bit lighter. I was wrong about that. He came in at nearly 6'5", 6'4", and 4/8, 366 pounds. And he looked every bit of it. He looked massive. He was huge. Maybe there was a shock and awe, I think, factor with T'Vondre Sweat once you saw him. And it made sense because you just don't see a lot of human beings that size at the NFL Combine. I mean, if you look at it overall, he was tied for the 11th heaviest player to enter the NFL Combine since '99. Warren Sharp tweeted out that D tackles weighing 355 plus pounds at the Combine since 2000. There have only been 3 of them, and one of them is T'Vondre Sweat. If you look at the players to weigh 350 plus pounds at the Combine since '99, you got 5 of those guys. That's it. He came in as a massive human, big humans. What Sark talks about he likes. T'Vondre Sweat was a big human, but he ran 5.27 in the 40.
He did, and I mean everything he did. There wasn't a point in it in any the drills you watch or anything else where he looked like he couldn't compete at that level. He was a spectacle at everything he did. It's that Andre the Giant mentality of a guy where when you see him come in, anything he does, if he does a normal, if he kicks somebody in the stomach, it looks like, oh my God, that guy is going to die. And there was like, I don't know. And by the way, how much would you take you to pay you to be one of those guys when they're holding the bags in the drills?
Man,
those guys were getting abused. And when T'Vondre Sweat went in there, he missed the bag.
Helmet.
He missed the bag a little bit. That poor man looked like he was about to get taken. I was like, just cowering away and hiding. One gets popped in the face with the bag. His bag got hit too hard.
Yeah, they should wear headgear.
They should. I think they're going to have to now. They didn't want to look like idiots out there, but you're going to have to with those big men. But everything T'Vondre did, when you just watched him do it, even the 40, it's a 5.27. And if you put it, on film with other guys and it looks slower, but it didn't look slow. It still looked like a big man moving faster than you would ever want to see a big man moving at you. Like, I can tell you, there's not a quarterback in the league that if you put him at the end of that 40 would not have moved.
Oh,
you know what I mean? Like that guy's running away real quick.
No, you're right. No, it was impressive to see 366 pounds move at that speed. It was the last ranked 40 among D tackles, but that wasn't the point. I think it was about shock and awe. Remember, he was actually like promoting his 40 and joking about it before the Combine. And RG3 tweeted out that, at his size, if he was 180 pounds, that's the equivalent of a guy running at 4.2. So it looked good, but I don't know if he increased his draft stock at all. But the question for him is whether he can be a 3-down player. That's still a question. He probably won't answer that until he plays in the league. He's a dominant run stuffer. Hell, look how gargantuan he is. He can take up multiple gaps just with his sheer size alone. But can he be a guy that on 3rd down, on the passing downs, predictable passing downs, 2nd long, 3rd downs, Can he be a guy that can be a pressure defender? Can he go from being an elite run defender to being someone that can also penetrate and be an elite pressure defender? That is the question. That is not a question with Byron Murphy. Byron Murphy, they believe, can go back and forth. He's an elite pass rusher, but also can be an elite run defender. And that's what he projects as. At T'Vondre Sweat, I think he projects to be elite in one of those. He's the best run-stuffing defensive tackle in this draft. The doubt centers around whether he at 366 pounds, can he be a 3-down player and play on those passing downs and be an impact player?
And I think that's kind of where they want to see, and this will be in drills and pro day too, of if they double team you, can you push them back and push the pocket and try and collapse the pocket, where even if you're not getting pressure where you're going to sack him, can you make him get out of the pocket where now one of our edges or one of our linebackers can come out and get him or make the play and take the play off timing or any of that? I think that's more what you're looking for, T'Vondre. You don't necessarily need, because he doesn't have the moves that Byron Murphy has. Byron Murphy has all the moves to get off of those blocks. T'Vondre doesn't necessarily have all those moves, but he has a brute strength that if you give him a one-on-one, you know he can collapse that pocket. But in a double team, does he have the brute force at 366 to push back two guys and collapse that pocket, try and get the quarterback to move out and take him off his timing?
Yeah, he can. I mean, both these guys can take on double teams really well. That's not a question. The question is for T'Vondre Sweat. Yeah, can he be? And he was in college. You saw him penetrate and become a pressure defender. Can he do that at the NFL level? I think he can. And he'll prove that. The weight will be the question. They don't want to see him go above 370. Yeah. I imagine that no matter what team he goes to. And he says he's comfortable playing at 365, which is what he played at the Senior Bowl when he turned a lot of heads at the Senior Bowl. But both these guys are going to make a lot of money in the league. I pointed this out, and I'll get into this a little bit later in Rod's Round of the Day coming up in the 9 o'clock. But if you look at the highest paid defenders, period, in the NFL in 2023, the top 16, 8 of the top 16 were interior defensive linemen. If you look at the top 12 defenders in their average in terms of guaranteed money they were paid in their contracts. So just the highest paid defenders in terms of guaranteed money spent, 6 of the 12 were interior defensive linemen. This is not considered a premium position, and yet teams now understand that they have to have a run stuffing / pass rushing interior D lineman, and that's worth a lot of money if you find a guy that can do both. Now, if you can only do one, then you're paid accordingly. Right? You're a situational player. You're either a pass rushing specialist or you're a run stuffing specialist. The Cowboys drafted Mozzie Smith because they wanted somebody to be both. When you draft a guy that high, you don't draft a guy that high who's just a run stuffing specialist. So for T'Vondre Sweat, that's why his draft stock may drop a little bit. Byron Murphy's stock is going to rise, though, as a result of that, because they pay money for pass rushing ability. It's almost as a defensive lineman is considered a prerequisite. Like it's considered something that is a base requirement that you stop the run these days.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
Like basic as an NFL defensive lineman. But if you could add value, the added value would be if a guy that can rush the passer too.
Yeah, and I mean that's the reality. Yeah, because they also know it's like they're just going to run away from you at a certain point, and you have guys that
Michael
can
Parsons.
Yeah, they go. We're just going to run to the side that Mike is on, and if you're clogging up the middle, that's fine. But yeah, on those third downs, on a down where we're going to play action, are you going to be able to come through the middle and still wreak havoc and throw us off the timing of our routes and throw us off the time and try and make the quarterback scramble and all of that? That's a question for T'Vondre, but I think that's where, he could be a draft fit guy where they really just need someone to help stop the run in a team, and everyone else they wanted was kind of taken off the board, and so they don't go best available in the first round. They take a guy that they feel comfortable having on their roster for the next 4 years in T'Vondre Sweat. I think that's kind of right now, unless he has an amazing, amazing pro day where he'll fit in if he falls to the first or climbs up to the first. Most likely, though, is a second-round pick of where somebody comes in a little less, liability if he does balloon up in weight, if they feel like, where he's on that verge where they're a little bit more worried about his health, that if he gets up to 380 on an off season and comes back into camp and he's, overweight and those types of things where they want to build in more protections. If you put him in the second round, that guaranteed money's gone. It's a little bit more of a drive for somebody to make sure you stay that type of player.
Yep. No, I agree. That's the only question. But I do think T'Vondre Sweat will be taken early in the second round at the latest.
Oh, yeah.
But a lot of people think he should be a first round. I remember Jim Nagy saying that before the draft, that he didn't think he should drop out of the first round. Mel Kiper really likes T'Vondre Sweat too. We didn't see, excuse me, we didn't see Jalen Ford run any of the drills. He did the broad jump and he did the vertical jump. He had a 10 he had 10 I believe a 10-7 broad jump, which had him fifth overall. So a really good broad jump for him. And he had a 33.5-inch vertical, which was 11th amongst the linebackers. He must have tweaked something during those workouts because we did not get any results from him on the other agility drills. So I'm assuming that he's going to do those at Pro Day. And Jalen Ford, I'm sure, maybe impressed at interviews. I expect Jalen Ford to be drafted where he's going to be drafted anywhere from third to fifth, maybe even sixth round. That's where off-ball linebackers are drafted, guys. I know people don't like it, but unless you're a freak at off-ball linebacker, you don't get drafted in the first round. I mean, Dre Greenlaw is a fifth-round pick. Fred Warner was a third-round pick. I mean, Chanel, the linebacker for the Chiefs that made that blocked the extra point in the Super Bowl. I mean, that guy's a third-round pick. I think Bolton, their other linebacker, maybe a second-round pick, but that's where off-ball linebackers are usually drafted just because of the value of the position. And I think that's where Jalen Ford is going to fall.
Yeah, and I think, if you're Jalen Ford, you just hope to go to a team that you can go contribute to in a high manner. Because if you fall into a place where, they need that off-ball linebacker, which a lot of teams do, because it isn't it's not a position you're going to spend a ton of money in free agency. Those guys may not. They'll try and get one out of the draft and try and not, skimp and save and not pay somebody a lot of money to have that position. You can get into if you're in a good place with other good linebackers, maybe a decent secondary, he could really step up and be a part of that team. So, being drafted later is not the worst thing in the world. The worst thing is getting put on a team where you're having to do everything and it makes you look worse because now everything's your fault when the defense isn't working because you don't have any help. So if he gets put on a team where there's help out there, he could be a big piece of it.
Or a team where you're not a system fit, which I worry about with DeMarvion and Overshown now with Mike Zimmer coming in. I'm not sure he's a system fit for Dan Quinn's system. He was perfect. But for that system, I'm not sure.
Also throw in the fact of what they need versus what they have now, and where they may put him over there in that off ball and be like, "Look, we just need linebackers. We need linebackers and run support." And so we know this isn't your specialty, but you got to do this now.
Yeah, we'll hear from Will McClay actually later on the show. The Cowboys talking about what they need and what they're eyeing at the combine. But yeah, there you go. The Texas Longhorns represented yesterday between Byron Murphy, T'Vondre Sweat, and Jalen Ford. Today you'll have JT Sanders, who I've read some comments from JT Sanders because they're doing the media rounds as well, and he says he expects to run around a 4.6, and if you look at it, he probably has. I remember Pro Football Focus actually putting an article out there. He probably has the most to gain at the tight end position, even more so than a Brock Bowers. Brock Bowers is going to be drafted really high. He's a freak, considered a generational talent. And there's a precipitous drop, a huge gap between the two top tight ends in this draft, in this class, and the rest of the tight end class. If JT Sanders can prove that his athletic profile and skill set is somewhat close to Brock Bowers, and that Brock Bowers isn't far and away and athletically, he isn't a huge distance away from JT Sanders, and if they are closer in athletic profile than we realize or that we anticipated, I think people will go back to JT's film if he can show that athletically he's got measurements that are similar to Brock Bowers or in the neighborhood of Brock Bowers. I think that's what he's got to try to do.
And we'll see. I know Brock Bowers yesterday was not committed to doing all of the drills and doing everything yesterday.
He doesn't need to.
So he may sit it out, which doesn't necessarily help JT Sanders. He'll do it his pro day, though. Those numbers will come out eventually, most likely for Brock Bowers. But he doesn't need it. It would help out JT Sanders. I agree with you if he was able to get it close. But JT Sanders, I've also seen him talking a lot this week about blocking. And that's one of those pieces that everyone's looking at about, are you coming in? If you come to the NFL, are you going to be a blocking tight end as well? Because that bumps you up because Brock Bowers can block.
Yeah, Black Bars. There's no really. I don't even know if there's a flaw in his game. I mean, he's. I mean, if there's a can't miss prospect, he's pretty close to it in this draft class. All right. Speaking of draft, JT Sanders, we got some sound from JT Sanders talking about the Texas Longhorns next year. And some of the guys who you will be watching in 2024 on the 40 acres. So we'll hear that sound when we go behind the burn orange curtain. Also, Sark went on the All Facts No Breaks podcast with Keyshawn Johnson. There are a couple of pieces of audio we're going to play there. So we'll talk some Texas football on the other side. We're from these draft prospects talking about their former teammates and what the expectations are for some of the breakout stars for the Longhorns in 2024. We'll do that when we come back. This is the Rodcast, but it's the Rodcast with my man Patrick Davis. I'm lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers right here on the Horn. Some Texas football. Well, we actually been talking Texas football. We're talking about the prospects coming out in the NFL draft and their performance at the combine. But I want to talk about the players on the 40 acres right now. Sark went on the All Facts No Breaks podcast with Keyshawn Johnson. And it was actually a really good interview. And there are a couple of tidbits, a couple of nuggets I want to bring up. First, Sark was asked about, of course, the quarterback room, because Quinn is expected to. Actually, I want to say I saw today that Quinn had the tied for the best odds to win the Heisman. So a lot of expectations on Quinn, as well as should be. Returning for Texas, first year in the SEC, coming off a Final Four appearance. And, of course, you have Arch Manning behind Quinn Ewers, who is part of the first family of football, and there's been a lot of hype surrounding Arch Manning, as there are around any Mannings. And here's what Steve Sarkisian had to say about that situation of Arch Manning and the Manning family being patient. A lot of people thought that Arch Manning might want to transfer, wouldn't be willing to sit for 2 years behind Quinn Ewers, but that's not the case. He is willing to sit behind Quinn and learn the system. Here's Sark talking about that quarterback room for the Longhorns.
Well, I just think this, I'm a little bit old school on some of this stuff, and I understand that, in this day and age of recruiting and social media and what's going on, everybody, wants to be the 5-star and come in right away and have instant impact and things of that nature. But I'm a little bit of the belief of there's a developmental side to our game, so that when you do play, you play great football, and that you have longevity in your career when you do get to the NFL, because you're prepared for that time when you get there. And I think for Quinn, having one more season of starting, getting his start number up into the 30s, as a bona fide starter, being a leader of a team, continuing to mature, staying healthy, things of that nature. And I think for Arch, what a great opportunity as a backup now this year in his second season, going to get some definite playing time. And we're looking forward to him doing that, watching his maturation and growth. I think for the both of these guys, it's going to be the best for them, for their futures, so that they can play the best football. So we're fortunate. I've never not been anywhere where we haven't had quarterbacks. And so we're fortunate to have those two guys right now as guys that can go out and lead our offense and lead our team.
Yeah, quarterbacks obviously like Sark's system. And, I mean, the Manning family, they approved this message. I mean, the Manning family signed off on, one of their members of the first family of football being mentored by Steve Sarkisian, playing in that Steve Sarkisian system. And I'm sure they broke down the X's and O's of that Sark system. So it is a quarterback-friendly system that quarterbacks want to play in, so you can always helps you recruit big-time quarterbacks and helps you recruit big-time skill talent. There's audio, my man Patrick pulled of JT Sanders. He was talking to Chris Sims, actually, in Pro Football Talk, and he was talking to them about his recruitment to Texas, and they go through a lot of different topics. And then they actually start asking him about the him being an athlete coming into Texas and choosing offense or defense, and he tells you why he chose offense inevitably. And I think it's pretty interesting. Here is JT Sanders.
5-star recruit, got offers from Texas, Alabama, Florida State, Georgia, LSU, Notre Dame, Oklahoma, Ohio State, and Texas A&M. How do you pick Texas when you got all these great schools that want you?
So Texas just really showed me that they wanted me. They was really, like, after the recruiting process, they really still recruiting me the most, if you get what I'm saying. Like, it was, despite getting offers from Bama and stuff, Herman was still pushing on me hard, and I kind of took that to heart, and that kind of resolved with me. And it just felt like home, better for my family, only 3 hours away from my hometown, in Texas. So I know my family's going to be able to make it to all the home games. So it's just really a business decision.
Yeah, business. I want to joke when they say that thing. I'm going to be like, you mean the bag of cash was bigger?
My freshman year, NIL wasn't even a thing. So,
I know. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So you got to see that whole change.
Yep.
Actually, since we're there, take us through that. Like, what was it like at college? Your first year, you're probably like, damn, I don't have enough money to eat a third meal, right?
It was kind of hard just living
going
off
to
that.
Jester dorm.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Jester.
Yes.
Cypress under the Sand Jag. It was kind of hard. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
So then what happened when it came NIL? Tell us how life changed a little bit.
It actually changed a lot. I got to be able to help my family out more financially, also myself as well. And it's just I'm just thankful for being able to have the opportunity to help my family out. You know what I'm saying?
I hear you.
You played receiver and defensive end in high school.
Yep.
How did you settle on tight end?
So Herman wanted me to play both sides. He recruited me as an athlete, but when Sark got the job, I kind of knew I was too big to play receiver.
Yeah.
I didn't really want to play defense, especially Sark coming off that national championship at Bama, watching that game. I definitely wanted to be a part of that offense. So I kind of knew I was already going to be in that tight end position.
Right.
Yeah, so there you go. Watching that game, I knew I wanted to be a part of that offense. And I think and there have been several players that have hinted at that, right? Isaiah Bond essentially said that when he said, just like the business world, you make the best decision for your company. My company right now is my draft stock. I feel like I'm putting myself in position to increase that and have better draft stock. I mean, this is a player that watched Sark's offense when they came in Tuscaloosa and beat Alabama this year. And Alabama ended up obviously finishing in the Final Four too. But he watched that offense, and I had to be a big part of how appealing it was. And remember, Sark recruited Isaiah Bond. He actually talked about this in the All Facts, No Breaks podcast, that he recruited Isaiah Bond, lost out on that recruitment to Alabama, and talked about how that relationship that he had cultivated really paid huge dividends when the transfer portal opened up, because Nick Saban retired. And then he said immediately, right after that, right when the transfer portal opened up, I'll get the quote from Sark here. But Sark says basically he went, as soon as Isaiah Bond went into the portal, he flew to Georgia to meet with his family and Bond and his parents immediately. Yeah. And then when Bond visited Texas, he committed on the visit. It was no time at all. It was quick, and everybody remembers how quickly it happened. Well, it was because they had the previous relationship, and I think Isaiah Bond wanted to play in that offense after watching that offense, just like JT Sanders watched that offense. Thought to myself, I want to play in that. It's a huge recruiting tool for Sark, because that offense is enjoyable to watch. It is exciting. It is aesthetically pleasing. Longhorn fans, they remember winning the championship with, VY and Greg Davis calling the plays, but Longhorn fans never liked Greg Davis's offense. They were complaining about Greg Davis's offense even when I was playing, and he was still breaking records and setting records at Texas. But they don't complain about Sark's offense as much. I say as much because Longhorn fans complain about anything, and I'm part of that. But they don't complain about it as much because it is an enjoyable offense to watch. It's aesthetically pleasing, and I think it also helps him recruit high-level talent at quarterback and at tight end and at wide receiver and at running back too.
Yeah. No, I mean, that ability to throw the long ball, everybody wants to be a part of a team that, you have that explosive play, and Sark's, he's built about the explosive play. A lot of other offensive coordinators love the screen game, love, trying to get something where maybe we'll break something out of it. Sark does every play with the hope of it being an explosive play. And then sometimes he'll set up, if he has a fault, it's because he tries too hard to get the explosive play instead of sometimes just going to pick up the 7 yards and making a manageable second down or third down. He'll still say, well, on first down, let's chunk it down the field. And then what are we going to do on second down? Well, we'll chunk it down the field. Well, now it's third down. What are you going to do? Well, I got to chunk it down the field now. So
it's third long.
But if you're a fan, you go, well, at least those were 3 fun plays. And, it's much better than, well, we ran 3 bubble screens in a row and we got 4 yards. And I hate this guy. He's the worst. Let's go get a plane and tell everybody how much I hate him.
No, that's a great point. And I will say this about Sark. He started taking fewer shots downfield on first down as the season went on. I think that was his evolution as a play caller. But one time, frustratingly, he would just take shots on first down the field, incomplete deep shot. And then you're in second long, and you're like, well, you got to throw it as second and long because you don't have Bijan and Rojo in the backfield to help you out. So it's a great point.
But that's also some of Quinn's evolution of being able to read a defense a little bit better. That Sark would send him out there and go, well, if it's open on first down, go for it. Quinn said, sure, I think it's open. I can make that pass. And he's evolved a little bit more into going, oh no, they're back. Let's not waste this first down, because I don't want to be sitting back here trying to take a hit on third down when I screwed it up on first down and didn't get any yards. So I'll check into this play and we can move on.
Yeah, let's work smarter, not harder.
Exactly. Guys. So that's the evolution. And when we talk about Sark saying the evolution of Quinn, another year in the system, you get that another year of an evolution of being able to pick the right play out of what Sark's got for him.
I totally agree with you. All right, so real quick before we get out of here, JT Sanders and Byron Murphy at the Combine were being asked about who they should, basically some of the players who could be breakout candidates for the Longhorns in 2024. JT Sanders had some glowing remarks about one Jonte Cook. Can we play this audio, Patrick, real quick? Here is JT Sanders on Jonte Cook.
Jonte Cook, actually, he had a dominant high school career, and when he gets his opportunity, I know he's gonna go out there and make his plays for sure.
What can you tell us about Jonte? What kind of receiver is Jonte? What do you see from him? Can you give us a scout?
I feel like he's a miniature Zay. You know what I'm saying? Getting to play under Zay his freshman year and just look at the things Zay did. I feel like that's how Sark's going to use him as well. He got the play speed, he got the catch radius, he got the hands, he has the IQ, has the smartness, all that.
All right, so the way he's talking about, he's going to use him like X-Men. Well, X-Men, led the team in targets. Is Jonte Cook going to lead the team in targets, or will it be Isaiah Bond? I think right now the belief is Isaiah Bond is going to be that guy, and Jonte Cook might be the second receiver, but I don't know. I mean, it could end up being Jonte Cook's got more familiarity and knowledge of the system. He's got more chemistry with Quinn Ewers because he's been here. Yep. Those other guys haven't. It depends on whoever Sark wants to force feed the football to.
Yeah, and I mean, and then you talk about the other transfers. Ryan Wingo's having great reports of what he's coming up, that there may be more wide receiver rotation than we've seen the last couple of years. Because we know last year he had his dudes, and that was who was going out there. And so we may see more rotation, some more guys, and then whoever performs well in games is going to start getting those. But I don't know if preseason, other than Isaiah Bond, there's a sure thing this guy is our number one, number two. I think Isaiah Bond's as close as you can get to the number one.
I think Jonte Cook is definitely going to be in that circle. But you're right. You're going to expand that circle of trust of wide receivers this year. All right, one more clip I want to get to before we get out of here. Byron Murphy was also asked the very same question. Who should Longhorn fans be on the lookout as a breakout candidate for the Longhorns going forward? Here's what Byron Murphy had to say.
I say on defense, I'm pretty sure y'all heard of him. He's a freshman. I say Anthony Hill. And I say when it's time for him, for him to come, and do this process, I feel like he's going to be a first-round guy. So just be on the lookout for him.
All right, first-round guy. I said it yesterday. If he's going to be a first-round guy, y'all heard this controversy about what's going on at LSU, about how to use Harold Perkins?
Yeah.
Whether he should be playing off-ball linebacker or playing the edge. Same conversation people are having about Micah Parsons. Right? Should he be on the edge or should he be playing off-ball linebacker? Even Stephen Jones made a comment that he thought Michael would be doing more linebacking in 2023, but he was on the edge more. As we just pointed out, when he's on the edge, teams have figured out, well, he's an average run stopper, but he's an elite pass rusher. So let's just run.
Yeah.
Let's just run at him instead of dropping back to pass and then him freakishly coming off the edge as one of the elite pass rushers in the league. And that's why he's got to change his game. He's got to become a better run stuffer in addition to being an elite pass rusher. But that's the conversation I think that we're having with Anthony Hill too. You can't just leave him at off-ball linebacker the entire time. I'd like to see them move him around, put him on the edge, blitz him up the interior gaps, and make him a movable chess piece rather than keeping him at off-ball linebacker. But you can only do that if you have competent, capable play at the other off-ball linebacker so that you can stabilize your central nervous system of your defense. Otherwise, you're going to have to keep them there just to keep it stabilized because you don't know how many guys that you can count on with consistent play there in the interior of your defense.
Yes, sir.
So, all right. I know we went over there, but that was well worth it. Thanks to my man Patrick for all the audio. We come back. We'll get into a little off the record on the other side. We'll get into some fun conversation and some of the off the record items of the day right here on the Rodcast with myself, Rod Babers, and my man Patrick Davis right here on the Horn. Hey, what's up, folks? Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers here. Let's talk about the city of Austin. It is a great city. We know this because people keep moving to Austin because once they come here and then they get to experience the city, get to experience the food, the culture, the people. I don't blame them. I mean, who doesn't want to make it home? And one thing I love about Austin are the iconic landmarks around town that truly make the city unique. And what you may not know is that many of these iconic landmarks that we love and cherish in the city were created and built by the hands and the skilled craftsmanship of Ironworkers Local Union 482, like the Pennybacker Bridge and DKR Stadium. The folks at Ironworkers Local Union 482 don't just go to the office, they build it. So if you're looking for an exciting employment opportunity or a refreshing career change, you can become a member of Ironworkers Local Union 482. Right now, they're hiring over 3,000 people for a huge project right here in Central Texas. They're offering competitive wages, competitive benefits, and a pension plan. They even offer training for unskilled labor through their apprenticeship program. Become a member of Ironworkers Local 482 and take pride in the type of teamwork and craftsmanship that help shape the future of our great city. Maximize your potential today and accept the challenge of becoming the best version of yourself by applying online at ironworkers482.org. That's ironworkers482.org. All right, welcome back to another edition of Off the Record. And this one is a story that I'm sure Jerry Jones is not happy about. A Dallas County judge ordered Wednesday that Dallas Cowboys owner Jerry Jones must take a paternity test in a lawsuit filed by a woman claiming to be Jones's daughter. In a defamation complaint, the woman, Alexandra Davis, alleged Jones, Donald Jack, the lawyer, and the consultant, Jim Wilkinson, portrayed her as an extortionist. Davis's lawyer, Chris Hayes, called today a huge victory for many families. Judge Sandra Jackson of the 302nd District Court will be presiding over the case. And essentially, Jerry Jones got to take a DNA test to basically disprove or prove that this young lady is or isn't his biological daughter. Yeah, straight up Maury Povich style, man. You are the father. What do you think we're going to have here? Not the father, or he's going to be the father.
I mean, it feels like there's got to be so much evidence for the court to be like, well, yeah, clearly, like, you're the. Now, if he's not, I want to see the Maury Povich dance he does. I want to see Jerry Jones just dancing around doing the run, doing that run across. And I told you that baby don't look like me. When they get on there,
that's a good point.
That one, like, look at him and his big old ears. That I got ears like that.
Jerry Jones does like to put on the show now. He does like to put on the show. But yeah, man, this is. I mean, he thought he was the father, right? Because wasn't he paying like on the side little hush money to keep this thing quiet? So maybe it was just easier to do that rather than have to prove it or disprove it. But for the young lady, I imagine for her, this is about getting in the will. Right?
Yeah, but you're not going to get in the will. I think what it is, because she was already on that reality show, right? She was part of a reality show before.
She was a part of a reality show, but this would get, I mean, you would have case to be in the will if you're actually
you have a case, but if he picks it and he's like, well, guess who I don't like? The lady who sued me and made everybody realize I had an illegitimate kid. Maybe you're not in the will.
Yeah, maybe not, but
I think that she knows that she's like, look, my life will be like with everything else. If I'm Jerry Jones' daughter, then I can go do the other things I can do because now that's a story and I'm in the news and I'm a piece of it and I can do that. And maybe she just wants the closure and she wants the medical history and all of that. Maybe it's all that. Maybe it's better. Good, but I have to imagine It has to do with money. Clearly, you're not gonna.
But maybe she wants to know who her father is too.
That's probably part of it.
His long life journey. That's probably
Man, if those results come back that it's not him,
that would be hilarious.
Man,
if it comes back that it's not him.
What conversation? The look she gives to her mom. If that happens,
right. You philandering,
and I was also hanging out with Dan Snyder though, so I don't.
Yeah. At least she knows how to choose them. Mom does. All right. Hey, mom, she goes after them big fish. So there you go. Jerry Jones wants to take a paternity test.
If he is the father, can we say that he has in the past then gone all in?
Yeah. Oh, he's definitely done it a couple times.
He's gone all in.
He's going. I mean,
did you see that?
Did he meet her at like an airport ticket counter? I want to say
that sounds
do
about
I remember
right.
that being the story? I think I got to go back to research. I swear that was like the beginning of the way he met the mom.
Too many cocktails at the first class lounge for Jerry.
I don't know. I got to go see where this woman worked in the mom, but I thought I remember that being like a random detail. There you go, Jerry Jones. He's got to take a paternity test.
That is one way to get your own private jet. Your wife allowed you to get a private jet. If you cheat on your wife with the ticket lady at the airport, she's like, yeah, just go buy a plane now. You ain't no more ticket ladies for you, Jerry.
Well, then you gonna have hot host. You gonna have a hot stewardess though, and that's what I mean. That's servicing the plane.
No, it's gonna be all males. I'm hiring.
All right, so there are a couple of random stories that also I wanted to get to. Apparently, 2 NFL prospects, one being Tyler Owens, they voiced their very strange belief systems. Tyler Owens doesn't believe in space and believes the earth is flat. Yep. He's also expected to run the fastest 40 time at the combine too, by the way.
Yeah, no, he's fastest 40 and fastest to say the dumbest thing I've heard in a long time. That was, that he said, because look, the flat earth thing, I get like it's wrong. It's not right. But he even says in that, he goes, it's interesting, that stuff. So I don't know. Maybe it is, maybe it's not. But I don't believe space is real. That's a new one to me.
Yeah.
I did not know.
Is he trolling us? Is he trolling us?
I don't know, because there's the other guy who is trolling.
Yes, this guy's trolling. Tip Riemann?
Yeah, Tip
Ryman.
He's the one, because he went with birds aren't real, which you can see those. There's like billboards and stickers everywhere. Birds aren't real, which is basically a fake conspiracy theory to make fun of other conspiracy theories. It was all created as basically a social experiment, and this, saying that other conspiracy theories are crazy. So he was trolling on that one. He realized, I'm going to do the Will Levis. I put mayonnaise in my coffee, get the viral clips out about my name, and people know who I am if I say this birds aren't real. I think he knew what he was doing there. But yeah, Trey, I don't know if that was it. If he went to a different school, like if he went to, he's coming in from Harvard, then he'd be like, I don't know, but he came from Tech. So there's already a little bit of like, I don't know.
Yeah, no, you're right about that. Like I said, I hope that he was trolling us, because if not, like I said,
I don't believe in space.
Yeah, the Texas Tech higher education system is now, I think, should be questioned. But either way, there you go. That's some off the record. We come back. We'll have Rod's rant of the day, where we'll talk about factors that are affecting the draft stock of these Texas Longhorns. We'll also hear from Will McClay about what the Dallas Cowboys are coveting at the NFL Combine. All that and more right here on the Rodcast. I am lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers with my co-host Patrick Davis right here on the Horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. It is a Freak Flag Feel Good. Fake it till you make it. 512 Ric Flair. Woo! Friday edition of the Rodcast with myself, lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers, and my man Patrick Davis. And Patrick Davis is the idealionaire on the show. He came up with 512 Friday, a way to show some love to the local bands and artists here in Austin, but also give you the opportunity to catch these very talented folks live and see what they're all about. And Patrick, who we jamming right now for 512 Friday?
This is Club Coma, and they're doing their single release party tonight at Hotel Vegas.
Nice, there you go. I said my man Patrick will make you look cool. He'll make you look cool. He'll make you, feel like you're cool in front of all your friends, because you'll know exactly where all the hot spots are, where all the best bands and live music is playing on the weekend. You can take your friends out, significant other out, and all you got to do is let Patrick do all the hard work. All you got to do is listen to 512 Fridays. Speaking of 512-447-3776, that is the number to the text line. We'll have the big fat poll of the day. Actually, we'll have that posted on social media after the show, but the big fat poll of the day from earlier in the show was, what was it, Patrick? Biggest freaks that you've seen, biggest athletic freaks, or the most athletic freaks.
Who is the greatest freak athlete you have ever seen?
Yeah, we went down that rabbit hole, and honestly, I don't think we ever like ended up choosing one specific athlete that was more freakish than the other. We just got to went down a list of a whole lot of freakish athletes. And yeah, man, the list is long. We're in that mindset because of the NFL Combine. A lot of freakish athletes showcasing their skills at the NFL Combine. And we've talked about that. You have JT Sanders, who will be the latest Longhorn representing in the on-field drills. He will be participating yet, I'm assuming, this morning. They're getting the on-field drill started. So we'll give you some updates if they come out during the show. Also, Xavier Worthy's already speaking with the media. I've seen some of his audio. We'll try to get you some of that before the show is over. We have Rod's rant of the day that'll be coming up in this segment. I'll tell you about the macro factors that are affecting the Longhorns draft stock. We'll also talk about NFL rule changes. A couple of those have been proposed already. And we'll talk about the Cowboys, what the Cowboys are looking for in this at this NFL Combine that may affect their draft decision. So we got a lot to get into. Got to cram it all into the next couple of hours here. We do have our Horn headlines as well, though, and we don't want to forget about those. My man Patrick always hooks us up with our Horn headlines.
Horn headlines for you on a Friday, presented by Top Gun Rentals. The Suns last night outlasted the Rockets 110-105 in Houston. Jalen Green puts up 34 points. Jabari Smith Jr. adds 11 points and 16 rebounds, but not enough, as Booker and Durant combined for 59 points to get the win over the Rockets. The Rockets did not shoot well enough in that game. Thought they could have a shot in it, but the Suns, too much firepower for the Rockets. They continue their quest for an NBA championship with that. Bradley Beal did not play in the game. Hopefully those three will get back together soon. The Spurs return home from their rodeo road trip with a big win over the number 2 seeded Oklahoma City Thunder, 132-118. SGA puts up 31 points for the Thunder, but not enough against Wembanyama. 28 points, 13 rebounds, and 7 assists and 5 blocks. He also got in on the steals and just putting up all of the stats. He also had this to say after the game, after a great fourth quarter performance and 2 big threes, a big block on Chet Holmgren, all of that. Here's what Wemby had to say after the game, speaking to the crowd.
I missed it. I missed it. Enjoying the game and winning back from the road trip with more than 16,000 people that I love.
Wembanyama speaking after the game to the crowd, giving some love. He does lead a Go Spurs Go chant as well after that. Texas men's basketball taking on Oklahoma State this weekend on Saturday, looking for their first back-to-back wins in over a month. Have not had back-to-back wins or back-to-back losses in the month of February. Now getting into March, see if they can continue off their win. Texas Tech on the road earlier this week. Game against Oklahoma State on Saturday. Texas women's basketball taking on BYU in their final game of the regular season on Saturday as well, 7 p.m. at the Moody Center, doing 10K for 10K. If they are able to draw 10,000 people to the Moody Center, Vic Schaefer will donate $10,000 to the Neighborhood Longhorns Foundation. We also see Texas baseball headed down to Minute Maid Park for the Astros Foundation College Classic this weekend, taking on some top 10 teams. Number 3 LSU tonight. LeBaron Johnson Jr. It should be your predicted starter for tonight. Your probable starter for tomorrow is Charlie Hurley against Texas State. And then on Sunday, they'll be taking on number 9 Vanderbilt, with Cody Howard expected to take the mound for the Texas Longhorns. That is your Horn Headlines.
Horn Headlines brought to you by Top Gun Rentals and Lawn Equipment.
Come
enjoy food, beer, and the best deals of the year on all zero-turn mowers and steel lawn equipment in stock at both locations, March 22nd and 23rd. TopGun.net. We'll shoot you straight.
All right, we'll get ready for actually might as well just get right into Rod's rant of the day here, because I want to get to this topic of external factors that may be affecting the draft stock of players. I think it's related, actually. I think I'll start with a rule change in the NFL, go down the rabbit hole, and you guys know how that goes. So let's start Rod's rant of the day. All right. First off, some NFL rule changes that are on the table. They're thinking about changing the intentional grounding rule. The competition committee has discussed and will continue to discuss adjusting the grounding rule. They are considering a proposal to make no distinction between the quarterback being in the pocket or outside of the pocket. So that's basically what the distinction would be. The quarterback, even if he was in the pocket, would only have to get the ball back to the line of scrimmage to avoid a grounding penalty. They had 59 intentional grounding calls in 2023, with only 2 drives that featured an intentional grounding call ending with a touchdown. So essentially, they want to make it easier to play quarterback. Why? Because the NFL has played more backup quarterbacks in the last 2 years than they have in the history of the game.
Yeah.
So the more games they play, the more quarterbacks they're playing. They played 66 different quarterbacks last season. You got teams that are playing third-string quarterbacks now with regularity. What is going to happen when they go to 18 games, which is inevitable when they go to 18 games? They're going to need more quarterbacks. So they're just trying to make the quarterback position a little bit easier to play for your backup quarterback. That's just my interpretation of it.
Yeah, and I think there's that they want to protect the quarterback, but it's also that all those rules they keep doing to allow the quarterback a little bit more leverage to try and get outside the pocket. And it's like, these are the plays that hurt quarterbacks because they rip their knees up or hurt their ankle because they're trying to get out of a sack and they're trying to extend that play and trying to twist and throw the ball downfield as they're getting hit in the pocket. And you're like, no, guys who didn't get hurt was when Peyton Manning or Brett Favre, they would just fall over when a sack was coming and they'd take it and they'd embrace for impact and they'd be ready and they'd be able to take these hits. But guys now, because we see Patrick Mahomes be able to spin out of a sack and then get a playoff, everyone's trying to extend that play one little bit further. And that's how you rip your leg apart or rip your hip or hurt any of those injuries, because you're bending your body in ways it's not supposed to be bent. And we just see that happen too often now. And I'm not sure if it's going to necessarily prevent injuries or we're going to see guys, have those issues still where they, try and go for a big move. And as they're twisting and falling, trying to throw the ball, I think it'll lead to more interceptions. Because, if you're not outside the pocket and you're trying to throw the ball past the line of scrimmage and to where nobody's at, that you could float one out there pretty easily to get picked off.
Troy Vincent said most of the quarterback injuries occur in the pocket. So he said it may be time to evolve this particular call to protect the quarterback both in and outside the pocket. I agree with you. I think sack avoidance now is, and I think it should be an official stat, but I think sack avoidance is a bigger priority for offensive coordinators and offensive play callers. There's actually an interesting little nugget if you're watching the Dynasty about the Patriots. I think that's what it's called. But whatever about the Patriots Dynasty is a documentary on Apple Plus, and they remark that Drew Bledsoe would often, because Drew Bledsoe was all battered up, he was all beat up, right? He was basically a statue in the pocket, had dealt with some serious injuries, and they said at times he would almost accept sacks too easily. That once he saw it coming, he would just, fold up in the fetal position and let it happen. And a young Tom Brady wasn't doing that. Young Tom Brady was fighting for his life, trying to keep a play alive, trying to make any play he could. And you're right. I mean, some quarterbacks have a different mentality with that. And I want a quarterback that fights for those to keep the play alive.
Yeah.
Keep the play alive, extend the play, and let's see what your second reaction skill set is going to be. But that is also, a consideration by the rules committee right now. This is the one I think affects that kind of going to get me on my rant here. So the NFL is and should be considering a rule change for the kickoff. That is something that they've been talking about for a long time, but now Pro Football Talk and several other reports claim that this proposal is gaining a lot of momentum within the ownership of the NFL. Remember, they got to get 3/4 of the vote to change any rule. And Troy Vincent said that he currently believes that there is momentum to change the NFL kickoff and kickoff return to an XFL style kickoff and kickoff return. For those who don't know about the XFL style kickoff return, it is very different. They have at this point a 90%. XFL has a 90% return rate on their kickoff returns, which is absurd. And the NFL is dealing with a higher than ever touchback rate. Essentially, the kickoff has become a wasted play. Like nobody pays attention to the kickoff kick return. Every kickoff was a touchback in the Super Bowl. Every last one of them. Only 22% of kickoffs were returned last season. And like I said, all 13 of the kickoffs in the Super Bowl were touchbacks. The XFL, and by the way, this is the NFL's doing. They shadow banned the kickoff because it was the most dangerous play in football. I've had 3 shoulder surgeries. 2 of them was because I got hurt on kickoffs. All right, on essentially concepts that have been now banned since the wedge. You can't have a wedge anymore, so I don't have to blow up the wedge, which is how I initially got my shoulder injury. It is still the most violent play in football. Even when there's not a return, there is still car crashes and high-speed collisions happening at the front part of the return, because the returner, he's way back, and maybe a touchback, but the guys blocking don't know that, so they're still blocking.
Yeah.
And they're still getting into these many car crashes, still getting, concussions, and the NFL's worried about that. So they essentially shadow banned, or they took essentially the spirit out of the kickoff, which was supposed to be an actual play where you had a return. Now they just want it to be a touchback. But now they believe it's a wasted play, that it's a moot play. And they want to bring the excitement back to kickoff, but they also want to keep it safe. The XFL model allows you to do that. So the XFL model has the kicker kicking from the 30-yard line. And while the rest of the kickoff team begins at the opposite 35-yard line, they're only separated from 10 members of the receiving team by 5 yards. So the receiving team and the kickoff coverage team are actually 5 yards apart. The only people that move prior to the ball being caught is the kicker. That's it. He's the only person that moves. Then when the ball is caught, everybody can move then once the ball is caught. And apart from the kicker, the returner, so the returner can move too to adjust to the ball. But the kicker and the returner are the only ones that move prior to the ball being kicked. And none of the special teamers are allowed to move until the ball is fielded. That differs greatly from the NFL, which is set at 35-yard line, where the kickoff team is also lined up and allows both teams to move and gather steam and momentum before they inevitably end up running into one another. So it's a safer kickoff return, and like I said, 90% of their kickoffs have been returned this season. For the NFL, that number is in around 30%. Last season, 34% of kickoffs and 36% of punts were returned. For the XFL, they're at 90% and 63% of their punts and kickoffs returned. The reason I bring this up is because there's a lot of momentum for this to pass in March, to be ready for the new year. If you're a Keelan Robinson, and you're probably not going to get drafted, you're probably going to be an undrafted free agent. But if they pass this rule, some NFL teams, not all of them, but some of them will decide, all right, we got to prioritize special teams. I need a returner. Because the reason teams stop putting their best athletes at return, remember, the best athletes, we just talked about freakish athletes. They used to all return kicks back in the day.
Yeah.
They put Randy Moss back there situationally. Deion Sanders will be returning kicks. He talked about that. Hell, I seen Darryl Green returning kicks back in the day. You would put your elite athletes back there because you believed you had a chance at a big play. Well, when they took essentially they took the guts and the heart and the spirit out of the kickoff because they wanted to make it safer. They wanted to legislate that safety within that play. well, NFL teams and coaches decided, well, I'm not going to even worry about putting my best players back there. And it was also dangerous to put your best players back there when they could end up getting injured. Guys like Rod B running down with 30, 40 yards of momentum and steam, and I'm trying to take that guy's head off. Do you really want your $25 million a year receiver out there catching that kick like Tyreek Hill? Probably not.
Yeah.
But if they make it safer, which they are, and the returns, at least you're going to have a lot more double-digit returns, probably 20, 30 yards, because I mean, he's so much field that the coverage team is going to have to cover. And you get you an elite athlete back there, or an elite burner back there, a guy with elite speed like Keelan Robinson or an Xavier Worthy or whatever, you could really get some hidden yardage out of your return game. So these are the type of macro factors that could potentially increase Keelan Robinson's draft stock if it does indeed happen prior to him going into training camp.
No, it'd be huge to get that in there. I mean, and I think it even for a Ryan Watts, if you for defensively on special teams, to have a guy that, you think can make a big play for you on defensive special teams, because we know that he's talked about being more open to special teams and those types of things. I think on both ends of the field, you're going to see those guys get in a little bit more. I like it a lot more because it is a fun play to watch. It sucks to have plays in the game where, it feels like they don't matter anymore and it's a foregone conclusion. And then when you do run it out, they don't normally do as well. I get the player safety, but this seems to work better, and if you can't get the numbers on it until you try it, go try it for a season. Get it out this season rather than waiting it for another year and then someone else has a different solution that may or may not be better. I'm all for putting this solution out there and trying it out this season because I think it would bring back that part of the game. And like the Cowboys signed Kevontae Turpin a year or 2 years ago, and that was one of those pieces he was going to be a return man. But the return game's kind of gone. If you bring that back, well, now he becomes a bigger threat again.
Exactly. Now you can use that explosivity.
Yeah.
I think I'm with you. And NFL, what I love about the NFL is they will change a rule 1 year. If they don't like it, they'll change it back.
Well, and the NFL will change it.
They're an experimental league.
They'll change in season.
They will.
They've done stuff where they go, hey, this is not full change, but a tweak.
But
where they say, all right, we're going to move it to 5 yards, or we're going to, the rule.
Or we're going to officiate it differently. We're going to interpret that rule differently.
Yeah.
Yes, they do that a lot, actually. Matter of fact, we have sound of Troy Vincent. Here's Troy Vincent. I believe he's on with Pro Football Talking Chris Sims. These guys are making the rounds. They're doing some good stuff. And he actually talks about this new rule change and talks about the momentum behind changing the NFL's kickoff.
Where are we going to go with the kickoff in 2024?
We met with the special team coaches this past Sunday. They briefed the committee on what they've researched from the CFL, the USFL, the XFL. You're lining up 10 yards apart, balls kicked.
Right.
No one moves until actually the returner, the receiver receives the ball. There's a huge penalty if there's a touchback. Based off of that setup, it changes.
Yeah, you might not want some of the bigger special
4 to
teams
6
guys,
players on
right?
your roster.
Exactly right.
But I heard something about possibly touchback moving to the 35 on a kickoff.
This was part of the model that special teams coaches are considering to encourage
The
returns.
return.
You put the ball in the end zone, the other team's getting the ball at 35.
It's encouraging to hear that they're accepting of it, but have they gotten back into a corner basically where they're like,
it was a completely different, it was night and day
from
12 months ago.
Right.
We can't have no option. When the coaches finished 90 minutes later, how excited they were.
Is there a growing confidence then of a chance of getting to 24?
Mike,
Do you
I
feel like
believe
you
so.
get to 24?
I believe so, Mike.
Okay, that's cool to hear.
Just
That's
them
news,
leaving
folks.
out.
We're making news this morning.
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, they're talking about changing, and it's worth it. It's smart by the NFL. That everybody knows that is a wasted play, and the NFL is trying to. They are trying their best to make every potential play dramatic. Right, that's why they moved the extra point back. Extra point was too damn easy. They're like, nah, it's too easy. We got to move that thing back. What happened? Super Bowl, extra point blocks. All right, they won't drama in every play. The punt and punt return still have drama. You had a punt, a punt fumbled and in the Super Bowl, right? You had a fumble in the Super Bowl on a special teams play on a punt. So there's still drama involved with that play. They want teams to start going for 2 more because there's more drama involved. It kind of reminds me, the NFL's a TV show, right? So they produce it like a TV show. That's why it's so much better than every other sports product out there. And with TV shows, sitcoms back in the day, they used to have great television theme songs. You know this, Patrick.
Yeah.
I love me some television theme songs, right? They cut out the television theme songs. Now they just have like a musical open for maybe 5 seconds or 10 seconds.
Yeah.
Some shows don't even do that. They just open it up, done. This is the way they open up the show. And if you even notice the credits at the end of the show, they don't run credits like they used to. Nope. The credits are playing while the scene is playing, right? Because they figured out, well, America's going to tune out that minute of a theme song at the beginning of the show. And not me, because I love television theme songs, but they're going to tune out that minute at the beginning, and they're going to tune out the credits at the end. So you just lost an audience there. But if you just cut the credits and make it a scene, and at the beginning of the show, you have no theme song, just open it up like Seinfeld does, and that's it. People will stick around more.
Yeah.
That's what the NFL is doing here. Their kickoff was essentially, it was credits, it was a theme song. People were tuning it out. Now you bring drama back to it. Hey man, come in with that quick open, that cold open, and people will stick around for it.
I mean,
that's basically what I'm seeing.
Yeah, and you talk about, commercials and, trying to have stuff going in and out of breaks. Well, you score a touchdown, if the extra points from the 3-yard line and then the kickoff doesn't matter, then as soon as a touchdown scored, I'm gone. I'm going to the bathroom, I'm going to get something to eat, and I come back when the offense comes back on the field. But if you say, well, now the extra point is not a given anymore, and on the flip, the kickoff, something big could happen, you have to sit through that commercial break because you can't miss a second. And if you sit through the commercial break, those numbers is what advertisers want to see, and that's money, and that's where they want to go. So if you fix those two pieces that are going to be your bookend around a lot of commercial breaks, then, you're helping those advertisers, and that's what they want to do.
Ding, ding, ding. That's right. And I think I said it actually helps, I believe, my man like Keenan Robinson, because I think he increases his draft value. Okay, real quick, I wanted to get these other examples out here of NFL trends in helping or actually hurting sometimes NFL draft stock. The NFL now, they're playing more two high safeties than ever played. 45% of the NFL's defense are starting out with two deep safeties. What that means is you're going to play with a light box, and when you have fewer defenders than you have blockers. Well, that's perfect for defenders like Byron Murphy and T'Vondre Sweat. It's an ideal ecosystem for them to increase their value, because if I'm going to play with a lighter box defensively, then I need an interior D lineman that can either demand a double team that flips the numbers advantage back in my favor from having obviously a light box, and now you put two on to block by one. Well, boom, the numbers advantage now evens out or flips back in my favor. Or you have human beings that are so gargantuan, that are so mammoth, that they essentially can clog up multiple gaps with their presence alone.
Yeah.
Byron Murphy and T'Vondre Sweat can both do that. And that's why, if you look at the 16 highest paid defenders in the 2023 season in the NFL, 8 of them are interior defensive linemen, because defensive coordinators and GMs around the league have figured this out. It's like, no. We got to play more two high deep safeties to defend the pass with numbers, and we're going to win the running game with one-on-one matchups. And if you're going to do that, then you need disruptive defenders like a Byron Murphy who demand a double team, or you're going to need a defender like a T'Vondre Sweat who's so mammoth and so massive that they clog up multiple gaps with just their size alone.
Yeah.
That's why those two guys are going to make a lot of money in the league. That's why D tackles right now are the more so than any other position. They are dominating the highest paid defenders list in the NFL, because every team needs this if you're going to play modern defense.
Yeah. And I mean, there's decent edges that are on benches right now. There's not really decent D tackles that can do that on any benches. Those guys, you don't have the amount of players that can do it at that high level, that are that size and that ability with that footwork and that engine to go and be your every down guy. There's just not a ton of those. It's like quarterbacks. Those positions, they're going to get value because there's probably not 32 that should be starters. And if you say, well, there's not 32, then it costs a lot more money, because for an edge, they cost plenty of money, but you can go get somebody else and fill that position. You can get somebody. Those defensive tackles, if you get the right one, man, it sets your defense apart.
It really does, man. And you're paying for that value at the at the edge position, because everybody covers that. So maybe they're trying to get the best value and bargain.
Yeah.
But there's no question about it right now. D tackle is trending, and that's really good for T'Vondre Sweat.
And let's be
really
clear, you can have the two best edges in the world. If you don't have a D tackle, they can double team both those and single team if you're running, with 3 linemen, they can just double team on there and go one-on-one. So if you can put someone on your D tackle to take away a double team off your edge and let those guys run, man, it makes everything a lot easier.
It does. And here's another thing. I want to get to this real quick because I know we're up against it. I guess I can finish up the rest of these on the other side when we talk some Cowboys too. But, there's a lot of talk about tight ends in the NFL now. You can look at the Final Four teams, right? Look at their tight ends: George Kittle, Travis Kelce, Mark Andrews. It goes on. Even what's the young man? Sam Laporta, right?
Yeah.
They just drafted a tight end. Detroit
Huge
drafted
piece.
one. He broke all types of rookie records, right? Really good. There, right now, there's an argument to be made that tight end might be the best value in this salary cap league, along with having a starting quarterback on a rookie deal. If you go take Travis Kelce, for instance, right? Travis Kelce from 2016 to 2022, he ranked only behind Devontae Adams in receiving yards. If you include postseason, he actually led the league in receiving yards from 2016 to 2022. Well, look at his career earnings, $76 million. Allen Robinson has higher career earnings at wide receiver than Travis Kelce does at tight end. Brandon Cooks has made $108 million in his career. Travis Kelce has made 76. Travis Kelce finished 3rd in catches, 8th in yards, and 2nd in touchdowns in the year 2022. Yet he made $12 million less than Kenny Galladay, $6 million less than Nelson Aguilar. Corey Davis made more than he did. Tyler Boyd made more than Travis Kelce. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The value if you can get wide receiver 1 production out of a tight end, which Kittle does, which Laporta does, which Andrews does, which Kelce does. If you can get that kind of production out of a tight end, you pay tight end prices for wide receiver production.
Man, remember
this is a great value, Patrick.
Remember when Jimmy Graham tried to change it when they were going to franchise tag him and he wanted to be tagged as a wide receiver, and they were like, no, you're a tight end. And that's the thing. They're like, no, that's why we love you, because you're not a great wide receiver, but you are a great tight end, and we'll keep you here, and that money is perfect, and we'll expand and we'll win a bunch of games because that salary cap's not a problem for us because we got a number 1 tight end.
If you're a Brock Bowers or JT Sanders, you got to start spreading this message, man.
Oh, yeah.
The average top 5 tight end makes $14 million a year. The average top 5 wide receiver makes $27 million a year, damn near double.
If Taylor Swift can't get that message out, I don't know who can.
How about this before we go to break? Travis Kelce has the most receiving yards in the NFL since 2015, but he ranks 20th in receiver earnings if you would compare him to all the wide receivers.
Jeez.
Unbelievable. That is value, baby. So JT Sanders, he's great value in my opinion. That helps his draft stock right there. All right, we'll come back. I got some more examples of that, and we'll also hear from Will McClay about the Cowboys and what they're eyeing at the NFL Combine. All that and more when we return on the Rodcast with my man Patrick Davis. I'm Rod Babers right here on the Horn. All right. Let's get back to the conversation about the external factors that are helping increase the draft stock for these Longhorns. Talked about JT Sanders, how the best bargain in the NFL right now, other than having a rookie quarterback, a franchise quarterback on a rookie contract, I should say, is an elite tight end, a tight end that can produce like a wide receiver one. And I got to pay you like you're a top tight end. We talked about the D tackles, T'Vondre Sweat, Byron Murphy, because the NFL is playing a lot more two deep safeties playing with lighter boxes. It means you need bigger humans who can clog multiple gaps with their size, or you need D tackles that demand a double team. That's both T'Vondre Sweat and that is both Byron Murphy. They can do that. And with teams now playing with lighter boxes, you need better D tackles to flip the numbers in your favor by demanding a double team, or to be able to clog those gaps and be elite run stuffers. Both of those guys can do it, and their draft stock is increasing as a result of that too. We talked about Keelan Robinson, that they changed the NFL kickoff rule to the XFL kickoff. Well, Keelan Robinson's draft stock should increase, and I don't think he'll get drafted, but even as a priority free agent, some team may decide, hey, we need an elite returner on our roster. He is that. He can provide that for a team. A lot of examples that I have like this. Another one is the wide receiver. First of all, the NFL is obsessed with wide receivers right now. They just like drafting them. It's become a premium position. They believe in order for your quarterback to prosper, you need elite wide receiver play. If you go look at the amount of wide receivers that have been drafted in the last few years, I mean, the number goes up. And wide receivers, by the way, they're playing and producing a lot quicker. If you go look at wide receivers with 100+ targets, hell, in 2017, 2018, the number was 0. In 2019, it was 1. But in 2020, you had 5 rookie receivers with 100+ targets, 4 in 2021, 3 in 2022, and 3 in 2023. Times they are changing. So they're drafting more wide receivers, drafting them higher. This is good for A.D. Mitchell, good for Xavier Worthy. And here's another trend for Xavier Worthy, because Xavier Worthy is kind of skinny. He's kind of slight. And some people, that's a knock against him. There have been 24 wide receivers drafted in the first 2 rounds of the NFL draft since 2000 with a body mass index of 25 or less. This is the area that my man Xavier Worthy's in, right? His body mass index, he is, he's slim. He's probably at 22.7. That's below 25. Devontae Smith, famously skinny receiver, won the Heisman with start calling the plays. 23.1 body mass index. These are the skinny, slight guys. So there have been 24 of these guys drafted in the first 2 rounds since 2000. 25 BMI or less. How about this? 9 since Devontae Smith was drafted. So you went 21 years and only had 14 of these receivers drafted in the first 2 rounds. And you've had 10 such receivers drafted in the first 2 rounds in the last 3 years. That's good for Xavier Worthy. The NFL doesn't care about slight, skinny receivers anymore.
I mean,
you can run. It's a less physical league, right? You don't have to worry about getting your block knocked off as much.
Well, no, and it's about, you're trying to get that separation and you're trying to find whatever. And I think Tyreek Hill, who's not slight, but that speed, when people saw what Tyreek Hill could do, and you go, well, we just get the speed. No one's touching Tyreek. So if we see what he's doing and no one's touching him, who cares if they're slight? It doesn't matter. Tank Dell only got hurt because he was run blocking when he shouldn't have been and got rolled up on. But Tank Dell, we see what he did, where he went into a team where, people still say they need a wide receiver. Nico Collins had a great year, but Tank Dell, it becomes a top wide receiver for the Texans. And that, so if you say these guys are out there and it doesn't matter, we talked about it with VY earlier. Did you ever see him take a clean hit? You go, as long as you're not putting these guys over the middle, you're not running a Tom Brady offense, throwing Danny Amendola and Wes Welker and all those guys over the middle, then you're fine. You just go, these guys are going to be outside. Don't put them in situations where we're going to get them killed, and they'll be fine. And don't run block with them near the goal line.
Nah, probably not a wise idea. But yeah, I mean, wide receivers are just being drafted with a higher frequency, higher in the draft. From 2019 to 2023, there's been an average of, you go look at 10 wide receivers taken in the first 2 rounds of the last 5 drafts. So, I mean, and by the way, that number, it was 11.2 prior to last year's draft because there were only 8 taken in the first 2 rounds. So to me, This is the deepest wide receiver draft they've said in like the last. They'll say that every time because it's the deepest position in football at any level. But they've said it's the deepest wide receiver draft in a long time. 7 projected wide receivers in the first round, 3 in the top 10. Those are good numbers for Xavier Worthy and for AD Mitchell. Okay, we got time for this Will McClay sound really quickly? Because this is really interesting. So Will McClay was asked about what the Cowboys are going to be looking for on the defensive side of the ball with a new defensive coordinator in mind, right? Very different than what you had with Dan Quinn. Mike Zimmer's coming in with he's going to run a more stabilized defense, right? It's going to be a more traditional style of defense. Dan Quinn was very multiple, very progressive, very modern, but also at times unstable. With his defensive structure. Let's hear from Will McClay, the Cowboys personnel man, talking about what they're looking for with the new defensive philosophy.
What was that biggest shift whenever Zim came in as far as a draft perspective strategy goes?
I think we're probably going to look more so at those bigger bodies on the inside, stopping that. And then we're always looking for linebackers. That's a position that, in free agency and in the draft that we're going to have to look at because we want to add more players there.
Obviously, Zim replacing DQ as the DC. But when you have a new coordinator come in, how challenging is it having to adjust your recruiting style when you have to adjust for a new coaching style?
That's the beginning part of it. It's like we want to find the ingredients for their recipe, and it's the communication with them, trying to understand that, and then getting an opportunity again to talk to them as we're looking at tape and with that short window, now watching players on the field and hearing the coaches talk kind of helps us with that as well.
Zim's, recipe, what's his recipe?
He wants to play solid football up front. We're going to try and turn the ball over, and its speed and its versatility.
Yeah, I see Dan Quinn was built on hybrid players. He ran more probably as many twists and stunts up front of D-line as any team in the league. He loved sub packages. There are 5 and 6 DB packages. He loved pre-snap disguise, so he'd rotate his safeties a lot. Those are things that are traits that I think are unique to a Dan Quinn defense. I don't know if he played a lot of man coverage. You'll get a lot of man coverage with Zim too, but I don't know if you'll get the rates of distortion and deception with the pre-snap movement and shifts with the safeties.
Yeah.
I don't know if you'll get the D-line stunning and twisting as much. Those were things that Dan Quinn did to confuse blocking schemes and distort pre-snap reads of quarterbacks. That's why they forced a lot of turnovers, because they did confuse and distort and deceive a lot of offenses.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the Zimmer is going to be a little bit more about power and trying to just impose your will a little bit more than what Dan Quinn. But it's also going to go into, it's not like the Cowboys have a ton of cap flexibility. They'll be able to make some moves and get a little bit more. But I think, at least for this season, you're going to have to kind of use what you have, try and pick a few pieces. And he said at the top, I think they need to address linebacker and address that interior D line, and the rest of it is, see what you can bring back in that secondary, but you're going to have to kind of deal with a lot of the pieces you already have. You said earlier, the Overshawn question, what are they going to be able to do with him in this offense where we know he's much better as the, off-ball linebacker or on-ball linebacker and coming off the side and blitzing a bit more. I don't know if they're going to use him there. It's a question of, is it, need over what's best for him? What are you going to be able to get Micah Parsons, convince him to do this season? Because, if you're able to use him and he, can be a team player and can be convinced that it's best for the team if he works on these skills and does a couple other things differently. I think what would help with that is if you get the contract extension done.
Yeah.
Because once you pay him, then he's not playing for the contract anymore, and maybe he'd be more willing to not just try and get that edge money. But once you get through that, then that's really the question of where you go in the draft. They need a draft defense because you have a new coach in there. You have to find a couple more places. If we've seen what the trend was before, Mike McCarthy wasn't the guy in the war room who was fighting for his own players. He was okay with them drafting defense in the last couple of years. So I could see them going a lot of defense, and that's the question of, when you say big guys in the middle, is there any interest in a Tavondre Sweat to try and shore up that defensive line? I know they took the interior defensive lineman last year, but it's a different DC. And did they say, screw it, we messed up on Mozzie, maybe we can trade him, maybe we can use him in different ways? But Do you go there? Do you go off ball linebacker in the first round? That seems early for that. Or what do you go if you're going to try and go defense early? Where do you go if you're the Cowboys?
They won't go defense early. I think they'll go offense. They'll go O-line.
They'll go O-line. Yeah, that's another. Yeah.
Yeah, they'll go O-line early, and I think the defense may get second round though if it's Tavondre Sweat is there or somebody like that. For the Cowboys, the formal interviews, which is formal meetings that they've had at the combine, I'll just give you the position. We won't go through the players. I'll just give you the positions to let you know exactly what they're eyeing and coveting. Linebacker, D tackle, cornerback. So their formal meetings have been linebacker, D tackle, cornerback. That's obviously where they're looking. And I think linebacker is going to be their top priority because that's what essentially got you beat as badly as you got beat in the playoffs against Green Bay. They just went power football at you, and you were throwing DBs out there. Hell, I just read that Marquise Bell is going to move back to safety. That's going to be one of the Zimmer adjustments early on, moving him back to safety. Remember, he was one of your linebackers. You had one linebacker that stayed healthy the entire year. That was Damone Clark. And that's just, and like I said, I think for the Cowboys, that was initially a weakness of Dan Quinn's defense anyway, was the guts of it. That's why they brought in a Jonathan Hankins. That's why they drafted a Mozzie Smith. They drafted a Overshown. They wanted to try to reinforce and stabilize the interior central nervous system of that defense because that was really the only place where they were weak. And once again, that vulnerability was exposed in the playoffs and exposed last season, right? Arizona beat the Cowboys that way, kind of running down their throat. We saw with Buffalo. We saw that with Green Bay. I mean, they ran right at Micah too. That's become a common theme. Run at Micah, run away from DeMarcus Lawrence.
Yeah, and we'll see in that secondary what they do in free agency because if they bring back Gilmore, they bring back Jordan Lewis, there's not a lot of room to bring, then you have Deron Bland and Trayvon Diggs already there. You have guys who've gotten, Defensive Player of the Year votes. I'll still say I'm on board with shopping Deron Bland and his value if you can get a first-round pick for him because I think in the Dan Quinn system was going to be his best ever. You've already got Trayvon Diggs, who's a ball hawk. If you can call up the Commanders or you can call up and go, hey, man, we've got a guy that got Defensive Player of the Year votes, and we can re-sign Gilmore and we can bring back Jordan Lewis, and that's still a good secondary, better than a lot of teams have. But we don't know. Deron Bland did well for us last year, but him and Trayvon are similar players of ball hawk guys, and we don't know if he's going to recreate that. We'll gamble. Well, he still has a low contract. We're not going to be able to pay him. We know we're not going to be able to pay him in 2 years when his contract comes up because we're already paying Trayvon. So he's making $2 million. He's going to want a big raise in a couple of years. If you get that value and you can get a first round pick for him, I'd at least shop him. I'd at least put it out there. If the price is high enough that this is a guy to help us because we can build in other places and try and compete in the next couple of years with that window.
Would you take a second round pick for him?
I'd take a second and something else. So a second and a third.
First would be tough because he was a fifth round pick.
Exactly. And that's what I'm saying is I don't know you guys necessarily go out and say, well, I'm going to take him. I'm going out there and trying to find the best deal for him. But I think if you float it out there, he's available. We'll keep him if we need to because we've got
what about a second and a veteran corner?
Yeah, that might do it. Or a veteran linebacker.
Or a veteran linebacker. That's not bad either.
No,
I'm not opposed to that. That's not a bad strategy. It's not a bad because I agree with you. You don't want two ball hawks at your safeties. I mean, it's at your two corners.
Yeah,
that's way too volatile.
And I don't. Yeah, I think Quinn could go with that a little bit more than Mike Zimmer is going to go for that.
Yeah, maybe you could trade him to Quinn.
And that's what I'm saying. Quinn's out there. You have the D-line coaches in Seattle now. Maybe he likes him. Maybe you can go get him.
Idea.
I think there's teams that have connections that may like him. He got Defensive Player of the Year votes. Like his value will never be higher.
Nope, it won't. He won't have a season like that again. Even Trevor and Diggs didn't have a season like the one he had where he set the interception record for Cowboys. He didn't have one like that again. No. You don't. The turnovers they've shown, and the studies have shown that it's mostly a luck thing. It's a turnover luck thing. Players are in a position to make those plays where the ball bounces your way all the time. You need to go buy a lottery ticket. That year's your year.
Exactly.
All right. Good stuff there, Patrick. All right, we come back. We'll wrap it up, put it in the oven. We got another segment, one last segment. We'll play Who Said That, play some audio and wrap this thing up right here on the Rodcast with my man, Patrick Davis. I am lifetime Longhorn Rod Davis right here on the Horn. 512 Friday edition of the Rodcast. That's when my man Patrick, he takes songs from very talented individuals or actually talented groups as well. Could be a band, could be an artist. And he plays those jams for us and then lets you know about an opportunity that you may have to go see these very talented individuals. Who we jamming right now on the 512 Friday, Patrick?
This is Cody Jasper, and he's going to be playing Saturday at Buck's Backyard down in Buda.
Hey, I know what that is. Buck's Backyard. At one time, it was home of Hornbash.
Yes, it was. And it was home of a lot of flooding and everything else during Hornbash.
That is true. That is true. Yeah, I did. Yeah, that was I guess that was we had a lot of fun, but
we did. There was at one point a slight scare that our Christina, our awesome marketing woman, might have floated away with one of our trailers.
Yes,
that was an actual thing that happened that year.
Yes, they were like, "Is she in the trailer that was washed away?"
Well, the trailer's not here anymore, and we can't get a hold of her. Luckily, she was not.
Oh my goodness! Yeah, talk about the best of times and the worst of times. That really was what the Hornbash was. It was the best of times. We had a great time. Got a chance to meet all the listeners, and then ultimately, we had disaster as well. But that's okay. That's all right. We still had a good time. And Buck's Backyard is where you need to go to watch some live music this weekend. All right, we're gonna play Who Said That. We just play clips of audio that I send my man Patrick, and you can play at home. And then we reveal later who said that, and we talk about the audio. So Patrick, anytime you want to dial any of those clips up that I sent you,
all right,
you can dial any of them up.
All right, let's go.
You talked about wanting to run a 4.2. The combine record, John Ross, 4.22.
Yeah.
You've been trained in the team. That's under threat.
I think it's there.
Yes, apparently that's my man Xavier Worthy, because Xavier Worthy believes he can break the combine record. That's what he's talking about. Believes that he can break the combine record of 4.22. Is he running that fast? He must be running that fast in workouts, Patrick.
He must have. But you do think he had that coach's timing? That one where you get
that stopwatch?
Oh man, you just ran a 4.11.
Yeah, I you know what? You would think that he'd be using electronic timing because he'd be training at a really high class facility. But that's bold, man. That's bold.
I don't know. I'm gonna take it with a grain of salt until we see it, because we do know that Tavondre Sweat said you better watch out, and he did all right, but he did say I'm gonna run a 4.4.
He did say he's gonna run a 4.4. But remember, RG3 tweeted that a 5.27 at 366 pounds is actually the equivalent, if he was 180 pounds, of a 4.2.
Yeah, no, that's RG3
math. Get there. Yeah, you go. So it's a mental gymnastics to do it, but you can do it. So there you go. All right, let's play another clip for Who Said That.
Think of all 32 coaches in the National Football League. Who's running the fastest 40?
Ooh, great question. I know it's not Andy Reid. I'm not. I'll put myself. I'm not running. I retired from running a long time ago.
Yeah, I'll say Raheem. Raheem's probably he's got the best chance, I think.
I'm going Sean McVay. He still thinks he's an athlete. He still works out. He's pulled his hamstring and his quad over the years.
I think Mike McDaniel. I think he might have a shot.
Mike McDaniel has no chance of beating Sean in the 40.
Have you ever seen Mike McDaniel run on the sideline?
His shoes are probably going to be too nice. Sean's going to open up that gate and get that stride going. He's going to wear Mike out early.
D'Amico's a recent player. Maybe can I put D'Amico up there? I know he's a linebacker, but he played sideline to sideline.
I wouldn't sleep on Kevin O'Connell either. It looks like he can still run.
I don't know if my hamstrings would survive, but I would still give myself 40 yards to beat anybody out there.
So I have to tell you, Doug Peterson
Maybe Kevin O'Connell.
did indeed say it was you.
Did he really? And Doug's a quarterback guy. You know what? That makes me feel good.
You know, if it's a little bit longer, if it was 100, I'd go Matt LaFleur because he's got the long stride. But Sean McVay definitely gets us all in the 40.
There you go. Sean McVay. But the coaches don't look like coaches back in the day, though, Patrick. Now they're all in shape. They're all, they don't.
Wearing suits.
They work out a lot. They work out.
Wearing suits and smoking at halftime.
Yeah, exactly. All of them used to look like Andy Reid. Now they don't look like that anymore.
No.
Now they're all attractive and young, and they're all in much better shape. Hey, did you see the video of Tom Brady basically running the
overlap?
40?
Yeah, the overlap where he beat his time.
He beat his original combine time, and now he's like 40? Was he 45 or something like that? 46?
I don't like that. That ain't right, man.
Dude,
Come on,
that
take
dude
a
is
break. You're
aging
retired.
He's aging like Benjamin Button. He really is. He's better looking now than he was in his 20s, and he's faster. How the hell is that possible? What is Tom Brady doing, man? He made a deal with the devil. Hey, Patrick, you're the man, brother. That was so much fun. Looking forward to it, man. Looking forward to lots of shows, my man Patrick on the Rodcast. Thank all you guys out there for joining us on the Rodcast, being back. We appreciate all of you guys. Remember, the revolution will not be televised. We talk about it right here on the Rodcast. Everybody have a great weekend. Be safe and join us back here, same time, same channel on Monday. Peace.